cover here on the National Pulse. Okay, so first things first, right? We now know this. The Ebrahim Rasool, persona non grata, on his way back home sometime later in the week. The broader question is, for this conversation, what is the role of an ambassador in foreign relations, and how do ambassadors, communicate? What can they say? What can they not say in public, right? So let's bring in Douglas Gibson, who's the former South African ambassador to Thailand. So Douglas, appreciate your time. Or do we always say stick with the word ambassador no matter what?
Yes, that's right. Good afternoon to you and to your listeners. I'm very happy to have a chat about this matter.
Much appreciate your time. Well, let me ask you this first up, right? What is your take on Ebrahim Rasool effectively being expelled from the USA as an ambassador?
Well, I was shocked at his amateurish and foolish statements. No ambassador should talk about the head of state of his host country in those derogatory terms, whether in public or in private. And Ebrahim Rasool should know a lot better than that. He had 4 years as an ambassador in Washington, about 10 years ago, and you'd think he'd know his way around, instead of which he's carried on just the way a brand new, inexperienced ambassador might do.
So why do you think then that he said what he said? And I say this because there's been many others who are saying the context of all of this has been this really tug of war between the two countries for the last 3 or 4 weeks or so.
Well, the job of the ambassador is certainly not to get involved in the tug of war. The job of the ambassador is to represent his or her country to the best advantage, and to maintain good and friendly relations, and to come out and attack the local politics, the head of state, and his big MAGA policy, whether you like it or hate it. The ambassador shouldn't be making statements about that. I think the Americans did exactly the right thing in firing him. And I might say I think South Africa's government has acted very properly and in a very restrained manner, saying it's regretted, but they're doing nothing about it. And in fact, unnamed sources say that Rasool got what he was looking for. That was to be chucked out.
Okay, so your opinion, about saying that he was foolish and etc., right? Is that your opinion? And I'm talking about the role of an ambassador. Is that your opinion about the role of an ambassador, or is that standard practice that an ambassador does not get involved in the domestic issues of a country that he's in at that time?
That's standard ambassadorial practice. And when one gets trained, I had 4 or 5 months training when I left Parliament to become an ambassador, together with a whole lot of other people who'd been appointed to other countries. And one of the first things we learned was that you have to be a diplomat. You have to be diplomatic. You mustn't get in there and go and fight these issues, particularly in this case where the whole atmosphere has been so bad, and what we needed was an ambassador who had access and who could use that to help improve the relationship. And why it's so important is that tens of thousands of South African jobs depend on trade with the United States. And if we end up thrown out of AGOA, which gives us tariff-free access to the American market, I promise you there are going to be 90 or 100,000 direct jobs that are going to be lost. And in the 600 American companies that operate in South Africa, you're going to find a huge knock-on effect. So Rasool really was very stupid, and I can't understand why he was so stupid.
So let me then put this in your shoes, right? So considering you've been trained to be this this diplomat and diplomatic, right? And
Yes.
again, without discussing other policies, but you know your country, South Africa, you're being called bad people, doing bad things there. And if it's not the president saying so, it's the Secretary of State. If it's not him, it's Elon Musk. And there's this constant attack on your country. But you're in that country. What would you then have done, as you said, to be diplomatic? What would you have done?
Well, I would have kept my mouth shut about whether I hated or liked Trump. And I mean, his MAGA policy, Make America Great Again, to characterize that as a white supremacist thing and so on, it's just ridiculous. And I would never have said that. Let me give you an example. When I was the ambassador in Thailand, I was hauled in by their Department of Foreign Affairs, carpeted, because South Africa had allowed entry to Mr. Shinawatra, who was the previous prime minister, but who was now a fugitive from justice. And the Thais were incensed that South Africa would do that. Well, I took it like a man, and of course they did it quietly, and as only Thais can do, charmingly. But they made me know that they disapproved, and I came back and on the quiet, of course, talked to our own government, our own Department of Foreign Affairs, and the point was made. But that's how one does it. You don't go out and shout about how terrible the president is.
So a diplomat at no stage actually lobbies positions publicly. That's what you're saying. You actually lobby between yourself and your own government privately. Is that how I understand
it? Well, that. But I mean, for trade, for example, of course you'd lobby publicly, but in a positive way, not in a negative way. And you certainly don't attack your host country or the king or the head of state or anybody like that.
Okay.
You try to keep the relations on as friendly a basis as possible in the interests of your own country.
Okay. Now, can you think of other examples of, and I don't mean South Africans, but maybe other ambassadors from wherever they are in the world who, faced with a similar situation to Ebrahim Rasool, did justice?
Well, let's say firstly that Rasool is the first ambassador since democracy in 1994 to be expelled from the host country, the very first. So he's now going down in the history books as somebody who didn't know how to conduct himself as a diplomat or ambassador. I can think of a few other examples, not specific dates, but for example, the United Kingdom and Russia, every now and then they withdraw their representation or they throw out 6 members of the embassy because they're spies or something like that. So that does happen. But I mean, for this to happen to an ambassador in these circumstances is almost unheard of.
It just came to my mind now that the Ukrainian ambassador to South Africa, and her name escapes me now, but I think she still is the Ukrainian ambassador. I certainly remember her being very critical, very publicly on media platforms in this country about South Africa's role in the Ukraine, versus Russia. You're aware of that in terms of how that came across?
I vaguely remember. That was at the start of the war, I think. But, we've now sort of, up to a point, swapped sides by inviting President Zelensky to come on a state visit. So perhaps the ambassador of the Ukraine has, through silent or quiet diplomacy, managed to bring about some change.
But at a certain stage, she was very public. I mean, I've interviewed her myself, and I know that she was very, very public about why South Africa not doing what it should be doing. I'm just making that point in the context of what we're saying, right? Okay, what then again? As an ambassador going forward, how does South Africa then save this position? What should it do next?
Well, the first thing is to appoint an ambassador who is experienced, who is skilled, and who's got the brains to do the job. I understand that 3 names have been forwarded to the president for consideration. Now, we don't know who those are, But if they just sort of unemployed cadres or people who lost their seats in the last parliament, that would be a pity. You need a skilled person to go there and build up agreements and build up through meetings some sort of a trust so that we can resume talks.
And lastly, I mean, I've sort of heard, huge speculation over the weekend that, there may well be a GNU delegation jetting off to the USA soon. I mean, as an ambassador yourself, I mean, would you advise that, or to say, hold it, no, that needs to be done with the president of the country and maybe international relations, and not get multi-parties involved in that?
Well, the government is the government. I mean, it's no longer an ANC government. It's a coalition government with a number of partners. And the ANC up to now has not learnt the lesson that they're only a 40% party. And they insist on going headlong with their foreign policy, which is no longer the policy of South Africa. 60% of South Africa rejected the ANC. So I think that the idea of a GNU delegation is a pretty good one, but it might be that it should hold back until there's an appointment of an ambassador, which unfortunately can take quite a while. When somebody is appointed, it isn't announced straight away. I mean, in my case, I was asked in, I think, July or August of one year, and we only took up our embassy in February the next year.
Okay.
You have to get agrément, which is the agreement of the host country, to accept that person as an ambassador as well.
Well, thanks for bringing it up, and lots to consider based upon what you've just told us, Douglas Gibson, former ambassador, South African ambassador to Thailand, reflecting on the role, on the do's and don'ts of an ambassador, well, to another country. This is the National Pulse. Let's hear what you have to say.
As the cost of living rises, from school fees to the price of cereal, you can take comfort in knowing that with Outsurance, you could save big on your car insurance. Savings that could make a real difference to your budget every month. Outsurance client Mikey knows all about it.
These guys are super fast, they're very helpful. My bank account is flexing.
Why wait? Switch and save today. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is all about giving you value for your money. Enjoy life-saving services like Help It Out, with 24/7 access to panic assistance, roadside assistance, and home assistance with just a tap on the app.
Feel good. That means that I'm being looked after.
Make today the day you switch. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. Limits apply. T's and C's online.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matric mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bucket to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
All right, so R5 can't buy you a pie and a cold drink anymore, not for a long time, right? But Outsurance is still committed to saving you big bucks on your car insurance. Get a quote, and if Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 rands in cash, and make that 1,500 rands if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Now get monthly savings on your car insurance or cash in your pocket. SMS out to 30754. You got that? 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
This Human Rights Month, SAFM is deepening a culture of social justice and human rights. It's a time to reflect, engage, and take action for a more just society. From thought-provoking discussions to powerful stories, SAFM is leading the conversations that move us because your voice matters, your rights matter, and together we shape a better future. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 104.6 FM in Tshwane.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
So what happens next, isn't it? What should be South Africa's next move? I think about chess, how do you move from a checkmate scenario possibly regarding Ebrahim Rasool's expulsion, right? And can the relations between the two countries be repaired? And as I say this, let's look beyond just what happened this week, because remember, this has been an ongoing issue for the last few weeks, right? Particularly with Donald Trump and then his Secretary of State and Elon Musk effectively targeting South Africa. So what should we be doing next? Pearl Matibe is a Washington, D.C. based geopolitical analyst and correspondent with expertise in foreign policy and international security. Pearl, appreciate your time. That could make you almost the perfect candidate for an ambassador.
I wouldn't go quite that far, Ashraf, but at least we can try to explain a little bit about what's going on, but we cannot, I won't give a prescription as to what South Africa should do.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, well, give us your scenario. What is your understanding of what has happened over the last, 48 hours or so?
I think that what we obviously can see is that this is a very emotive issue, right? There are a lot of emotions on many sides of stakeholders, and that this comes from South Africans themselves, the population, people around the world who read this from social media, and everybody's coming to this issue with different levels of understanding, right, of how diplomacy works. So what I'm going to try to attempt to do today is sort of explain the position of the United States, right?
Yeah.
I've known Senator Secretary of State Rubio for quite a long time, even when he was serving in Congress. I have covered President Trump in his first term, and I'm following very closely his current term.
Okay, go for it. Yeah.
This issue of expulsion of diplomats, it's not an everyday occurrence, yes, but it is a diplomatic tool. So it's not, what I'm trying to say here is, it's not unique, Ashraf, right? The United States uses this tool when it has deemed that foreign envoy, the ambassador, from its viewpoint, that he took actions that are incompatible with his role as an ambassador. So the most recent case, which we are seeing, I'll tell you when it has happened in the past. So this is not a precedent that's being set here. Back during President Biden's term, he expelled 35 diplomats from Russia. That was in 2022.
Wow.
And also in 2018, we saw one from Venezuela who was also expelled. So what I'm trying to say here is, it's a routine procedure. I listened to some of what Foreign Minister Lomola was saying, that there should have been perhaps some sort of a démarche or something like that. But I think the issue here is the U.S. government sees the remarks that Rasool made as being very critical of President Trump, right? And that there was inflamed racial tensions and so on. But I think what we have to understand here is President Trump is a duly elected president of his own country. So people within the United States voted and elected him in a free and fair election. So he is a duly elected president. And when ambassadors come and they're in Washington, they're also representing President Ramaphosa, representing South Africa. So a diplomat's core responsibility is supposed to be to strengthen that bilateral relationship, right? He's supposed to be representing his home country's interests, fostering that dialogue. So you might also ask the same question, that from the US's perspective, were Rasool's comments routine for his role as an ambassador?
Yeah.
Or were they now delving into political discourse outside of his role as an ambassador?
And your answer?
Right?
And your answer would be what?
My answer here would be that South Africa has to really investigate, including their own Ministry of Foreign Affairs, what is critical to their role here. Yes, I think there's going to need to be some back-channel diplomacy that's going to be needed to be done, but we have to understand the United States has a long history of setting clear expectations for diplomatic conduct. And so this is not the first time, as I mentioned, this persona non grata. So this it's a diplomatic norm, okay, to expel him, and he has to leave immediately. But diplomatic relations are never defined by one event. So the United States and South Africa, they do share deep economic, security, and cultural ties. I think that they will be able to move past this. But work will need to be done on both sides, right, to manage the disagreement now and to avoid these long rifts that are now becoming established.
Well, interesting you would say if it's not defined by one event, right? And then, I mean, would you then say that Ebrahim Rasool overextended himself in terms of his role as an ambassador by making the comments he made?
From the U.S. perspective, he certainly would have gone beyond, because remember, his role here is as an ambassador who is supposed to be maintaining open communication channels. He's supposed to be conducting things that are aligned with diplomatic norms and so on. And the question then becomes, is that how he was sent here? By the President Ramaphosa, because he's representing Ramaphosa. He's representing South Africa. And as you can see, this was, the United States did not view this in
And then you made the point that, these things are, never seen in isolation. So, yes, you're quite right. This is not about a moral judgment on the USA or South Africa. The USA believes they do what they feel is right, and they have the democratic right. And on that basis, they feel that this person, this ambassador, has, effectively criticized that government in that country, and they've taken action. But do you think, therefore, that this has been because of a series of events? What I'm trying to say is, if Ebrahim Rasool said what he said on his own, without anything that has happened in South Africa and USA in the last month, would he not have been sent home?
Well, so here's the thing, right? Before President Trump came into office, it was long known, right, that he was running for president. Even when he won, there were weeks and weeks and months, right, before he actually took his oath of office. So South Africa at that time had time to understand, okay, this is the new president we're going to be having to deal with. These are the things that he's going to be wanting to take into play. So were those things factored into how that relationship was going to be managed? Like whichever new ambassador President Ramaphosa decides to send, a question we have to ask ourselves as Shraf is he going to find a new ambassadorial appointment that will be able to reset this relationship, that will have the ability to work now? Does South Africa's Ministry of International Relations, do they set clear priorities and parameters and expectations of what is diplomatic conduct in their embassy here in Washington?
Okay, well, you've got us thinking about many, many things. Pearl Matibe, appreciate your time and lots to consider. And we'll have a podcast of that up, as well as the chat with Douglas Gibson early on, coming up ASAP. Pearl, appreciate your time here on the National Pulse. Slightly delayed, let's get to the news headlines. Here's Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. In the news headlines, Water and Sanitation Minister Phemi Majadina says government is prioritizing the investment in quality and sustainable water supply. She was one of the speakers at the 14th International Water Association International Conference on Water Reclamation and Reuse in Cape Town. Kelly Smith's sister, Michaela Daniels, who is a police officer based in Uppington in the Northern Cape, has taken to the witness stand in the kidnapping case in the Western Cape High Court sitting in Saldanha Bay. And President Cyril Ramaphosa says South Africa is working on smoothing relations with the U.S. and is not being ignored by the Trump administration. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M2 westbound in Crown has delays approaching Main Reef Road, and the M1 southbound slow moving through Crown interchange towards Boysons. In KZN, the N3 westbound has a stationary truck before Hammersdale, and the N3 westbound a crash reported before Key Ridge interchange. In Cape Town, Bakengracht Street outbound is slow moving towards the elevated freeway, and Victoria Road outbound slow moving through Woodstock. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, let's get to sport. To me, let's get to soccer. There's some dramatic news with regard to coach.
Absolutely. A very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Well, in a twist of events, Cape Town City have parted ways with the interim coach and technical director, Muhsin Ertugrul. Now, Ertugrul joined City in January to replace Eric Tinkler and got off to a great start, beating Orlando Pirates and Kaizer Chiefs. However, City have suffered 8 defeats, won 3 matches, and also managed the same amount of draws in the 14 fixtures Ertugrul has been in charge. And according to SABC Sport, it's believed that the coach is the one that decided to step aside, citing quality of playing personnel as the reason thereof. Meanwhile, Mozambican captain Elias Pelembe has been forced out of his country's World Cup qualifier against Uganda on Thursday. The 41-year-old was unable to get a visa in time for the trip to Egypt, where Mozambique have been forced to host their Group G encounter because of the recent damage to the Zimpeto Stadium in Maputo. Now, Mozambique shared top place in the group alongside Algeria, with Uganda only 3 points behind. Elsewhere, Newcastle manager Eddie Howe says that his side deserved their 2-1 win over Liverpool to win the Carabao Cup. Now, the Magpies extended their 56-year wait for a major trophy and have now secured Europa League football for next season, but they will still hope to go one better and achieve Champions League qualification via their domestic finishing position.
We feel we deserve to win the game, and I think that's what makes it all the more satisfying. I think winning the trophy was, of course, our number one objective, but then you want to play well and you want to do yourself justice. For the players were magnificent yesterday. To a man, I thought we were really committed, gave everything, and now we get to enjoy the rewards of that.
Well, then moving on to rugby, the Stormers touring squad have been reportedly boosted by the return of Sasha Feinberg Mgomezulu and Damian Willemse against the Scarlets on Saturday. Their return is a timely boost for head coach John Dobson, who has been navigating an injury-hit campaign. Sitting 12th on the overall standings, the Stormers are level with Scarlets, who could also be strengthened by returning Wales internationals. Then the International Olympic Committee Executive Board has recommended that boxing be included at the 2028 Games in Los Angeles. Now, the sport was not part of the initial program when it was announced back in 2022, but last month, world boxing was given provisional recognition as the sport's international governing body. Now, the recommendation will still need to be approved by the IOC at this week's session in Greece by outgoing IOC President Thomas Bach, expected to be given the green light. Then, finally, my favorite part of the show, Ashraf, MVP.
Oh, your MVP of the week. We had this big argument last week.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, for me, I think it has to be Bayanda Walaza, who keeps redefining the South African speed, one championship at a time. Just this weekend, the 19-year-old clocked 9.99 seconds to win the 100-meter at the Athletics Gauteng North Championship. He's the 9th South African to dip under 10 seconds, and he's also the first junior from South Africa to manage that feat, and I must say a big congratulations to him. Unfortunately, I tried to get him on the show today. He's quite busy, but we'll definitely get him soon.
How can he be busy for us? I mean, tell him he just won 9.9 seconds of his time. We don't need more than that. That's it.
Yeah, I think that's my MVP. Your side?
Well, no, I agree with you. I haven't thought about anything beyond what you're telling me. I mean, I take direction from you. But well done. There's no argument this time.
Yeah,
no
wait.
debate.
I want to hear also from our listeners, though, their MVP for the weekend. I'm
Well,
sure
they
a
can
couple
tell
of
us.
Orlando Pirates fans will have some plays.
Well, of course, they were very delighted with that win over Mamelodi Sundowns yesterday, and some people are really excited about it. And then, I mean, there's been other sport like the Formula One. Lewis Hamilton finished, 10th, I think it was?
Yeah.
Okay. No MVP for him, no. But your point, Walaza. Do remember that name. That's what I think the International Athletic Federation had on their Twitter account. Remember that name. Fabulous. Okay, you agree? You disagree? Let's hear what you have to say. You can call in 086 000 2032 and then WhatsApp, text or voice notes. I want to hear what you have to say. Or you can tweet it out too. Right, more sports from you. in an hour.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
CFI, a global leader in online trading, is now in South Africa. Access 15,000 plus instruments, currencies, stocks, metals, crypto CFDs, indices, futures, and more on world-class platforms. Enjoy zero pip spreads, no commission fees, and 24/7 support for confident trading. Visit cfi.trade for a secure, transparent trading experience. Don't miss the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda, Tuesdays at 16:45. Proudly sponsored by CFI. CFI Financial, an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
Jazz lovers, the wait is over. Africa's grandest gathering returns on the 25th to the 26th of April at the Cape Town International Convention Center. Experience 2 nights of soul-stirring jazz, electrifying collaborations, and over 30 world-class artists across 4 iconic stages. Don't miss this unforgettable musical experience. Get your tickets now at ticketmaster.co.za. Brought to you by Independent Media, proud media partner of the Cape Town International Jazz Festival.
Join us for the first ever Radio 2000 Annual Family Day in partnership with SABC2 on Saturday, 22 March at the Fat Olive, Pelindaba Road, Lanseria, Johannesburg. Enjoy go-karts, 5-a-side soccer, pedal boats, and more. Explore the arts and crafts market and treat your taste buds at our food stalls. And a kid zone will keep the little ones entertained. Gates open at 10 a.m. and tickets start from just 100 Rand at ticketpro.co.za. Follow us on Radio 2000_ZA. Radio 2000. Our music, your memories.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, lots to consider about all of that. And the earlier conversation, the double conversation we had regarding effectively central is Ibrahim Rasool, the former ambassador, can I say former South African ambassador to the USA, and then just generally South Africa-USA politics, right? I did ask you one word for you that you'd wish to describe just your thoughts on the expulsion of Ibrahim Rasool, but if you had further comments on that, just add that too. Right. Let's talk about AI now. And here's the question: how to use AI in a responsible way? So, this month being International Women's Month, we chat to Maha Joueni, who is a tech policy expert and I understand one of the leading voices in AI policy, data ethics, and digital sovereignty in the Francophone Africa region. So let's find out more about the best practice around with using AI on the African continent. Maha Joueni, appreciate your time. You're a fellow researcher, I understand, at the Center for AI and Digital Policy. Welcome to the National Pulse.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me to share my insights on AI policy in Africa. I'm Maha, I'm from Tunisia, and I'm based in South Africa since 1 year. Regarding the policy, we have quite good experience in Tunisia with the AI national policy of my country, where we pushed for the use of artificial intelligence to ensure the good development and supporting startups, SMEs, and young entrepreneurs. Because in the end, these artificial intelligence tools, mechanisms are not neutral, are not spontaneous. They are biased already, and they were not developed by us. When the Western start to develop artificial intelligence on 1956, that year my country starts to be independent from French colonialism, and that year's many African countries they were under colonialist regimes. So artificial intelligence, fourth industrial revolution, was not developed and led by the global South in general.
Okay, I suppose, but I mean, here's the point: the fact that you have to develop a policy suggests, and my intro said, how to use artificial intelligence in a responsible way. That does suggest you can also use artificial intelligence in an irresponsible way too, right?
Yes, a responsible way have to start from the designing. We have to build our own artificial intelligence. We have to start it from the scratch, because I hear this AI in a responsible way, like we brought the AI from outside, and then we said, we are going to customize it, and we are going to make it responsible, but still it's not yet the solution. We have to be the one who construct it, who develop it, and then that time it will be responsible, and it will be AI for us, for Africa. So the policy, if we will call for a policy, we will call for developing our own AI first. And also we call to enhance the efforts for the clear regulations which secure the rights of Africans, as well as the rules and the rules in terms of eradicating all forms of
do I get a sense that you suggest that the policy between one country or one continent may differ very, very greatly from others? Because that would have surprised me. I would have thought that by and large most countries in the world would have developed a standardized policy around artificial intelligence.
We are African, my dear. We are not the same. I'm sorry. We have our different context, and we have our different history. I'm a North African. I'm an Arab. For almost now 1 century, Arabs have been labeled by terrorists, and our religion have been labeled also. So how do I put myself on the same level as someone else? No. The level of discrimination which my communities have been through, it's not the same levels.
Okay.
So I think, for a better understanding, Arabs and African, all of the global South needs to have their own standards, because they have their own history, they have their own problems, and also their own context.
Okay, I think the example you gave is very useful to understand, because you're quite right. There are narratives and biases that we will ignore if there's a standardized policy. So therefore, what should we do? But I suppose by the same token, then it would need one policy for Tunisia and a different one for South Africa, for example, isn't it?
We have already the African Union policy for artificial intelligence. And I think all of African states have agreed on the African Union policy for AI to call for using Afrocentric approach for integrating artificial intelligence. So all of us, we are all Africans in the end. So we need all to stand together and think globally, and also think deeply about the harmful impacts of using AI without knowledge, and also without considering national sovereignty, and I mean the digital sovereignty of each country, because we don't want the fourth industrial revolutions to be another path for another way of colonialism in the continent.
Yeah, I think that's important. So therefore, when you talk about an Afrocentric identity, I mean, give me an example in practical terms. What would that mean in developing, the practical use of AI?
Okay, I will give you an example in Senegal. In Senegal, for example, the country, more of 50% of the population, they speak Wolof. Wolof, the native tongue. The only people who speak academic French, they are the ones in Dakar, in the center, in the center city. I'm sorry. So they've been a hub of artificial intelligence in Senegal. 2 years ago, they developed an AI which is feeded and it can communicate with the Wolof native language of Senegal people. And for me, this is a great idea, great example of democratizing artificial intelligence, because now even the access to learning technology, the person has to communicate and learn it with their French, English, or other Western language. And we have to make it Afrocentric, that it's communicates and feed it with our own, design it by our own, to guarantee that AI responds to my local problem and issues.
Okay.
I hope it's clear. Also, the high cost of customizing LLM, because Meta, for example, they have their LLM open resources, right? But to customize it to our local context, it required a lot of money. Indeed, the only country from the global south who could customize LLM resources is Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
These are petroleum gas stations countries.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, they're
Understood. Yeah. All right. Maybe here's the last thing. Then Mohammed, based upon your initial point about developing this AI policy. So yes, you mentioned the African Union. So how far down the line are all the other African countries? I'm talking about the countries compared to the African Union in developing a very clear policy. Are we winning?
Are we winning? Not that much, because almost now we are 12 African countries who developed now their AI national policy. So, and the first countries was Egypt, to 2020, then comes Rwanda, then Morocco, Algeria. So like the number, Kenya so far, no, the number is below 20. And we are all 55 member states.
All right.
So,
well, I'll tell you what, you've raised it. Feel free. I mean, is there a website you can direct me to if people want to know more about it?
Yes. You can go to the African Union, and they can find more information about the status of the AI national policy, and also they can come to my personal websites and find more information about North African and the Francophone Africa, because my work is focusing more on policies in my specific region. So it's Mahajwini Tech.
I understand. Well, maybe if you can tweet it out, or just tweet it out, tag SAFM Radio and tag me, Ashraf Garda. We will certainly share it as well. All right.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Ashraf. Thank you.
Much appreciated.
It's nice talking to you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. There we are, Maha Joueni, who's a fellow researcher at the Center for AI and Digital Policy, raising something that ought to be top of the agenda in a world full of multiple agendas. Right. Next on the agenda. Let me feel your pulse.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Get a true AI business partner from Vodacom Business when you get the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra on a Red Business 1.7 gig contract for 1,599 Rand per month over 24 months. Enhance your deal. Add 349 Rand extra per month over 24 months and get the Samsung Galaxy Watch Ultra. Available in-store and online. T's and C's apply. Further together. Vodacom Business.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
Okay, let's get to your thoughts. Zig in Randburg, go for it.
Ashraf,
yeah.
I have had beautiful conversations, not direct tit-for-tat conversations, but I'm writing questions and observations, and artificial intelligence interprets them and elaborates on them.
Yeah.
And it's like a what you call it, a search engine which is prescribed to tell the truth and to be decent and not to antagonize people and not to tell untruths, because that's contrary to the nature of a
yeah, but I mean, so what's your point in the context of the conversation I had with the guest earlier on, Sig?
In that context, I wanted to say you can't Africanize human knowledge, infinite human knowledge, and I found only yesterday that the my AI, which has done wonderful work with me, like a philosophy that I'm like a Greek philosopher I'm walking with, virtually, but it cannot translate and collate its information across all languages.
But some may say that must be the challenge then. See, let's leave it at that. That's exactly the point of what the guest said to say. But then which language is the paradigm? And it can't be just one language, can it? There are different cultural nuances and perspectives around the world. Thanks for that, Sig in Randburg. Goodness, I haven't chatted to Sig since, we chatted a lot before in my previous era at SAFM. Simpiwe in Ramsar, go for it.
Yes, hello and good afternoon. Good afternoon, Ashraf.
Good afternoon.
I'm going to try and be quick.
Thank you.
Look, I mean, who imagined that you would be talking to a DA person and you'd be talking quite diplomacy? But that's the nature of
But an ambassador at that. I mean, somebody appointed him as an ambassador to Thailand representing South Africa. So we live in a world of contradictions. I mean, clearly. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Look, you asked how do we feel about Ambassador Ebrahim Rasool. I am happy for him. I am excited for him because it must have been tough to be there. Look, it's not a bed of roses. I understand what Douglas Gibson is saying, but this guy's door was shut in his face. To be an ambassador, represent the president as he says, and to have all of these people walk in and out of a place that you can't walk into ordinarily, using all of these terms that Mr. Gibson is defining. It's fine, but I think he was put in a place where he realized that look, it's either that or it's something else. Ultimately, my sitting here is embarrassing the president.
But that means, to go back to what Douglas Gibson said, is that Ebrahim Rasool knew that he was being undiplomatic, and the reasons were what you already mentioned, and he knew there would be repercussions, and he was up for it because he was put into a wall since he's been to the USA and not getting any conversations with representatives of government there.
Look, I know Mr. Rasool. I don't think he would have acted that way. And by the way, I think it's wrong to call him stupid or his action stupid. I heard that and I wasn't quite happy. But here is the thing. Let's take this situation, Ashraf, and let's put it right in the middle of Palestine, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have a minister speaking an ambassador speaking and criticizing the people of Palestine directly, or anybody, Lebanon. Would the DA have been this happy to promote quiet diplomacy? I think not.
Well, I mean, fine, but I mean, I can't answer for the DA. They've never been government on their own, so we don't really know. I mean, point taken from you, Simpiwe, right? And I think the question that we had with Douglas Gibson was purely on the basis of what is the role of an ambassador. I think the second part of it is whether you think Ebrahim Rasool, even though maybe by the letter of the law he didn't carry on the work of an ambassador now, but he did the right thing anyway. I mean, there's different issues there, right? Faisal in the Eastern Cape, go for it. You're live.
Ashraf, how are you?
I'm very good indeed. Go for it. What's your point?
Ashraf, you said the point is this. Sometimes in South Africa, we like to make something out of nothing. Trump has made up his mind. It's not about Ebrahim Rasool. By the way, he has made up his mind to make America great. Now, what must we do? Must we beg? South Africa must beg. South Africa is a sovereign country. South Africa is an independent country. We cannot be controlled by Trump. Yeah, and it's not only South Africa. Ashraf, it takes many countries.
But the question is not about whether South Africa is better than the USA. The question we're asking is the role of an ambassador. That's really what it is.
But Ashraf, my brother, let us be fair, Ashraf. Ashraf, I understand what you're trying to say, but Ashraf, what difference this man is make up his mind. And it's not the first time Donald Trump in his first term, he made a very, very bad statement about South Africa, and Nelson Mandela about South Africa. He has made up his mind. Why make this thing big? It's the same like this Africa Forum. People that say Africa Forum, they went to take on South Africa. Oh, what? It has no weight. They don't even have a weight on Donald Trump.
Faisal, I got that. I heard you. Thank you for that. I think you made your point very, very clear. Let's get another thought. There's lots of WhatsApps I want to pick up as well. Eunice and Joburg, go for it.
Yeah, Ashraf, the question that should have been asked to Douglas Gibson is, what about the previous U.S. ambassador here, Brigatti, when he put our country into disrepute, saying there was a bomb that's going to be exploding somewhere here, and on the Lady R issue? Should he have been fired? We have got rid of him from here? That's the question should have been
Well, I mean, fair point. I mean, I think, but it's a question we can ask each other that. Is to say, when I brought up the Ukrainian ambassador, you're right about that, to say, Gibson is simply talking about the role of an ambassador, according to the way he sees it.
But
right?
this ambassador, U.S. ambassador, did make some controversial statements while he was here.
No, point made. Yeah.
The second one, regarding the Ibrahim Rasool story, I'm just going to quote you. In 2016, a statement was made that Trump is a con artist. He's a conservative right-winger, and if he comes into power, there'll be chaos. And who made these statements? None other than the current Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, when he was standing against Trump. And you can see the whole clip there. You can see the video of it now. It's the very same guy now today who's saying, kick Rasool out of the U.S. So I'm saying it's hypocrisy at its best.
Okay, got that. Yeah, Eunice got that. I mean, let's be clear. Even in South Africa, we have people from political parties. Even right now, they are friends, they are enemies, they argue, and they throw stones with each other every single day. So I'm not surprised about that point.
Yeah, but it's go and see the video clip of 2016 of Marco Rubio, what he had to say about Trump, and then you'll see.
We'll check up. Thank you for that. Right, let's get more comments. Lots of comments about the ambassador.
The fellow SAFM business is Lazarus in Lesotho. To my understanding, an ambassador is a person who should or who knows exactly what to say and not what to say. And it's somebody who has got an analytical mind in this kind of situations that exist between United States of America and South Africa.
Okay, there we are. Well, I think, analytical mind is one. I mean, maybe we should all ask ourselves, what do we expect from an ambassador to another country? What role do they actually play?
What's up? JJ Textbridge. Rasool matter is done, but it is not the reason why we are going to lose alcohol. All these white people are coming on the phone, even Mr. Gibson wants to tell us that no, we are going to lose Alcoa because of our own policies. No. Alcoa was threatened from 3 years ago by the Republicans.
In fact, Rasool made the point there. Alcoa was effectively on the agenda with Biden, by the way. Okay, we'll have further comments on that and a whole range of other issues coming up here throughout the National Pulse. Let's get the news now. It's 4 o'clock. Here's Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. Top stories at 4. Government focuses on sustainable water supply, and the EU's callous calls on Russia for ceasefire conditions. For SAFM News, I'm Ondela Mbana, and a very good afternoon. Water and Sanitation Minister Phemi Majodina says government is prioritizing the investment in quality and sustainable water supply. She was one of the speakers at the 14th International Water Association International Conference on Water Reclamation and Reuse in Cape Town. The 5-day conference will facilitate conversations about the reuse of water and how technology can be incorporated more effectively to achieve this. Majodina says the South African government will prioritize water investment.
Our national water resource strategy calls for increased sustainable use of groundwater, desalination of seawater, return flows from treated wastewater system, reuse of other poor quality water such as acid mine drainage and brackish groundwater. Therefore, your theme and your purpose here, it occurs well with our strategy that we must focus on reuse of water.
Majodina added that water resources have reached critical levels and urgent intervention is needed.
The world is in crisis when it comes to water. We need water security. We are building mega projects of water resource, but that will never be enough. We must all save water. We must all use water sparingly.
Kelly Smith's sister, Michaela Daniels, who is a police officer based in Uppington in the Northern Cape, has taken to the witness stand in the kidnapping case in the Western Cape High Court, sitting at Saldanha Bay. During her testimony, Daniels said a week after Jocelyn Smith's disappearance, Kelly told her that the child was still in the Middle Pass informal settlement. Smith, her boyfriend Jacquina Polis and Stefano van Rijn are on the trial for alleged kidnapping and human trafficking. Daniels says the first time she contacted her sister, Kelly was in a state and crying, but on the following day she was joyful and talking about new clothes bought for her other two children.
En ek het vir mevrou Kelly, asked her, Kelly, waar is Jocelyn? Where is Jocelyn? Sy het vir my geantwoord. She answered me. En gesê my suster. And said my sister. My kind is hier in die plakkerskamp. And said my child is here in the informal settlement. Iemand wil my kind verkoop. Someone wants to sell my child. Maar Saldanha is nou deleted. Saldanha now is a hotspot.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says South Africa is working on smoothing relations with the U.S. and is not being ignored by the Trump administration. On Friday, the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio took two acts to announce the expulsion of South African ambassador to the United States, Ebrahim Rasool. The expulsion came after comments made by Rasool about the Trump administration. Ramaphosa says they are continuing to engage with the U.S.
Well, we're not being blue-ticked. We are continuing to engage with them. And as it is now, a great deal of progress had been made by our ambassador in straightening out the path to ensure that there is meaningful engagement at the diplomatic level. So this is a hiccup that we are working on straightening out. So we are not being blue-ticked. We cannot be blue-ticked because we are such an important player to the United States of America, as they are an important player to South Africa.
The European Union's foreign policy chief Kaja Kallas says conditions demanded by Russia for any ceasefire in Ukraine shows that Moscow doesn't really want peace. Kallas was speaking after U.S. President Donald Trump announced that he would speak to Russian President Vladimir Putin tomorrow. The BBC's Orlando Teal reports.
Speaking ahead of the talks between EU foreign ministers in Brussels, Kaja Kallas made it clear she believed Russia wasn't serious about signing up to the ceasefire proposal agreed last week by the United States and Ukraine. She said the conditions being presented by Moscow amounted in fact to all Russia's ultimate goals that they have wanted to achieve from the war. On Sunday, Mr. Trump expressed cautious optimism that a ceasefire deal could be finalized, saying he planned to discuss the division of assets, including land and power plants, with Mr. Putin.
Recapping the top story, Water and Sanitation Minister Phemi Majordina says government is prioritizing the investment in quality and sustainable water supply. She was one of the speakers at the 14th International Water Association International Conference on Water Reclamation and Reuse in Cape Town. I'm Ondela for SFM News Headlines at 4:30.
In sports, the Sawa Cricket South Africa announced the Proteas women's national contracts for 2025-26 season. Nigeria looking for World Cup redemption, and Kohli not planning to retire anytime soon. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound is slow moving through Crown interchange towards Boysons. In KZN, the N3 westbound has a stationary truck before Hummersdale. Umgeni Road westbound slow moving through Springfield Park, and the N3 westbound has a crash before Key Ridge interchange. In the northwest, the N4 is closed through Dino-Kana due to protesting. The N14 also has protesting reported west of Ventersdorp, so expect delays and diversions. And on the N12, protest action south of Klerksdorp, so expect delays and diversions there as well. In Cape Town, the M3 southbound queuing towards Rhodes Drive, the M5 southbound queuing through Racecourse Road exit. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you.
Bafana are taking on Lesotho at the new Peter Mokaba Stadium on the 21st of March 2025 at 6 p.m. for the FIFA World Cup 2026 qualifier. Come early, dressed to commemorate Human Rights Day and support Bafana for a chance to win prizes from our host, Limpopo Government and Polokwane Municipality. Gates open at 3 p.m. and tickets start from 70 Rand for adults with special rates available at 40 Rand for children under 12 at all Ticket Pro outlets. If you can't make it to Polokwane, catch the game live on S3 at 6 p.m. Or visit sabcsport.com for more details. Visit safa.net and Bafana on X and TikTok. Slangs and Negati are in a big search for their first win, while the indomitable Lions want to hold on to the summit of Group D. The bottom of the table clashes with the top. This is the FIFA World Cup 2026 African qualifier. Experience the joy of African football. Eswatini versus Cameroon. This Wednesday, 19 March at 6 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Imagine living in a community free from gender-based violence and femicide. That reality is possible, but only if we commit to building families that are free from violence and are inclusive, where children are raised equally. Every child has the right to grow up in a loving, nurturing and safe environment that promotes good mental health. So do not forget about the boy child. He too needs to be protected from all exposures of violence. Pay attention to the boy child today and watch him grow to be a responsible man that society can be proud of. Stop gender-based violence and report any cases of child neglect and abuse at your nearest police station. Or call the Gender-Based Violence Command Center on 0800 428 428. A message brought to you by the GCIS.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
I tell you what, did anybody not discuss the issue of South Africa's ambassador to the USA, Ibrahim Rasool, when we'd heard that he was being declared or has been declared persona non grata by the USA just at the beginning of the weekend? Did anybody not discuss it? And I can judge based on now, people are talking about it all the time. So here's the thought, amongst the different strands, right, to consider. One is purely as an ambassador. What is the role of an ambassador? Now, my understanding, based upon a few conversations I've had, that ambassador by its nature is a diplomatic role, where you effectively have to build bridges and not burn bridges with the country that you are in at that time. Okay, so it's not there to make a moral judgment on that country. That's the first part. So on that basis, you may consider whether Ibrahim Rasool was correct or not, effectively in passing moral judgment on that country while he's in that country acting as South Africa's ambassador there. The second part of it is he right anyway? What provoked him to say what he did, considering my understanding the door has been shut for South Africa for the last 3-4 weeks, starting from, we got bad people doing bad things to AfriForum being there and others being there and a whole lot of different comments all in the last few weeks. And there's been no real communication between South Africa at government level that we're aware of and their US counterparts. So was he provoked in that? And then his broader argument about Donald Trump and his supporters effectively trying to, in many ways, understand the countries who are incumbents around the world to create, well, this is my words, not his, a new world order. It was repeated before, remember that, to create this whole new world order that just unravels what we have right now. Is he right about that? And again, the other point that he made, the rise of effectively right-wing supremacists. Is he right about all that? And then maybe the last part is, how should South Africa now really respond? I know the president has said they'll have a briefing with him when he comes back. That is standard practice. But seriously speaking, how should they respond regarding this issue? Those are many questions. Am I missing another question around this issue? Let me know. Right, let's get into another issue that's really important, the issue of SASSA and grants, and there's two parts to that. One, of course, there's some important deadlines we'll be aware of in terms of replacement cards, and the other issue, something we touched on Friday, the issue of allegations of people within SASSA being involved in a whole lot of fraud at a big money level. So let's firstly chat to Paseka Letsatsi, the head of communications at SASSA, about the issues of the imminent deadlines that are so important to just about everybody listening in. Paseka, thanks for connecting once again to the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having us, Ashraf.
Thank you. Right, let's get to the deadline story. Where are we regarding that deadline with people adhering to it, and what's going to happen next?
Well, what we can say is that on the 20th, it will be the deadline in terms of the SASSA Gold Card. The Gold Card will stop to operate on the 20th of March. But what we need to emphasize is that it doesn't mean that Postbank is going to stop issuing or swapping the cards from gold to black cards. The swapping will continue to take place. We were just appealing to South Africans, in particular the beneficiaries of social grants, to make sure that they heed the call and they continue to swap the card from the old gold SASSA card into a new black Postbank card.
Okay, so that was the basis of today's press briefing, right, between SASSA and Postbank, right?
Yes, that was the basis, because we were just trying to take beneficiaries of social grants and South Africans in general, just to take them through into confidence, basically, in terms of where the processes are and what are the expectations, because the last thing we need is to have people panicking, to cause panic and people rushing, trying to make sure that people listen and obviously they follow what is supposed to happen.
So are we clear, you're saying that the old card effectively expires on the 20th of March, right, which is imminent. The new card kicks in at the end of the month, right? But those that have the old card that haven't used that card to withdraw monies for their grants, that will also end on the 20th of March, so they have to do it now.
Definitely. If you have that card post the 20th of March, unfortunately, you won't be able to access your card. The card has expired. And I just want to make it very simple. It's the same like all of us who do not use the SASSA card. If your bank card is expiring, there's a date which is written there. And if you want to use it beyond the date of expiry, you won't be able to access your money. Okay. However, the money will still be in your account, but you won't be able to access them.
Okay, so once you actually get the new card, then that arrears amount, if I can call it that, you'll be able to still withdraw it anyway. That's right.
Definitely, you'll be able to withdraw your money.
All right. You said you want to ensure that people don't panic. Are people panicking?
I'm a South African, and I know South Africans, we like to wait for the last minutes to do certain things. The card swap started in September last year, and the numbers were extremely low. I think it's only recently when we announced that on the 20th of March, the cards are going to stop operating. Hence, people started flocking to the sites to go and swap their cards. But we think that it's important for us not to cause confusion, to explain that it does not mean on the 21st, if you go and try to swap your card, you won't be able to do it. You will definitely be able to swap your card. But secondly, Postbank as well came with some measures to make sure that those who are unable or those who don't want to change their cards are able to go and get their money, which is there's something which we call, they call it cashless or cardless transaction. They would be able to get their money over the counter.
So they don't want to swap a new card, for whatever reason, they can get their money. Is that just for this month or even next month as well?
It's going to, even next month, they would be able to go to the post office, but it's an inconvenience.
Of course it is.
You must understand that it's an inconvenience. But secondly, we have a suspicion, a reasonable suspicion that certain people don't want to come and swap their card because of fraudulent activities, and they know that when they come to do their biometrics, they'll be napped. But we don't want...
Are you saying that they don't want it because they themselves are guilty of fraudulent activities? Is that what you're referring to?
No, not all of them, but we know that there are certain people that would not want to come forward to change the cards because there might be some fraudulent activities which are taking place.
Okay.
Because obviously when you come and do the card swap now, you do your biometric, and some of the people are very much reluctant to come and do the biometric verification.
All right. On the card issue, is there anything else you want to tell us?
On the card issue, we are just appealing to our people to continue to do the card swap, but obviously the South African Social Security Agency activated the Regulation 23, whose mandate speaks that when a person come to do a card swap, or when a person want to come and apply for social grant, it is the right of an individual to choose whatever method of payment that they want. Secondly, if you're getting your social grant in your bank, your private bank, you don't have to panic, you don't have to come forward to ask to swap your card.
Okay, point taken. Right, let's talk about fraud now, because we touched on this on Friday about allegations of certain people within SASSA being, involved in fraudulent cases where there's a stolen identity and they've been able to withdraw monies on big numbers. What's happened there? There was a court appearance today, I understand.
Yes, they appeared today and others appear tomorrow because some of them, when they realized that the police were on their tail, they just fled. But obviously they were arrested. You can't run away from the law. Basically, I think 3 weeks or if not 4 weeks ago, the fraud management unit presented a plan. And after presenting a plan, one of the plan was to make sure that they just do a random selection of the files to check if these files basically those people who have made an application do deserve. And I think it was picked up that some of these files are fraudulent, and these files, the members of the public, they operate in cahoots with someone who works for SASSA, and I think that's where the operation, together with the law enforcement agency, started.
Okay, now that they've appeared in court, for those that have, are you able to share the identity and the ranking of these people?
We will definitely share the identity tomorrow. They are appearing because they have to appear, all of them, tomorrow, because others were nabbed. So tomorrow they are going to appear. We will be in court. I will definitely give you a call, or I'll give the producer a call to give them all the information in terms of whether they will get a bail or in what are their names and other information, which is very sensitive, and I can't give away that information now.
Okay, perfect. I understand that. We will hopefully connect tomorrow. Paseka Letsatsi, the SASSA head of communications. One on the fraud issue, the other is your card, your money, your grants, and you certainly need it. Don't slip up on that issue. Thanks for joining the National Pulse.
Who will rise in the Hollywoodbets Pro Series, where the top 8 women's cricket teams face off against each other to lift the inaugural Hollywoodbets Pro 50 and Pro 20 trophies? Local pride is at stake with the log table taking shape. Waza nawe! Get down to a stadium near you and show your support. Visit cricket.co.za for more information. Entrance to Hollywoodbets Pro Series matches is free.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
Right, now earlier today, the President, Ramaphosa, opened the Banapele ECG Leadership Summit convened by the Minister of Basic Education, Sibiwe Khwarube, and Business Leadership South Africa to develop the 2030 roadmap to universal access to ECD, early childhood development, of course, right, in this country. So we're going to pick out some of the key points that the President spoke about at the event. Firstly, this important issue about correcting the legacy of our education. Well, in this case, Bantu education.
We need to admit where we've made mistakes. And I'm the first in government to admit that we made a mistake. We should have started with early childhood development. Universal early childhood development should have started 30 years ago. That's what we should have done. And I'm also on record in saying maybe what we should have done, because we had a legacy of Bantu education, is to close all schools maybe for 2 years. A good friend of mine is laughing because she has heard me talk about this. Close all schools for 2 years, take the educators, take them to re-education centers and have them re-educated so that they are ready to now teach the children properly. Yes, the children would have run around in streets without any education for 2 years, but that would have gained us a lot of time to be able to reform our education at an early stage.
Right, and there's more, right? President Ramaphosa then spoke about this issue of extending access to early childhood development.
So starting early as a nation and starting early as parents, getting our children into early learning, formalized early learning is the absolute objective we must all chase. Our immediate focus is to extend access to early childhood development to every child. It is one of the most powerful levers that we have as a nation to unlock the potential of our future. We recognize today that investing in ECD is not just about education. It is about shaping the next generation of skilled, capable, as well as entrepreneurial citizens who will drive our economy forward. Early childhood development provides children with the foundational skills that the minister was talking about, the foundational skills that they need to build a successful future. If you look at every child, they are sponges. They are sponges waiting to be, filled with the water of education. They are sponges just willing and ready to suck in as much knowledge as possible. It also helps to break the cycle of poverty that is handed down, and we know it, from one generation to the next. If we look at the history of poverty in our country, many households will tell you that that poverty that they have today has been handed down from generation to generation.
And then speaking to the media on the sidelines of the summit itself, the president then addressed the issue of Ambassador Rasool, a very, very topical issue. And he made this point about, South Africa and the USA.
We're not being blue-ticked. We are engaging. If blue-ticking means, as I understand it, it's used by young people, that we are being ignored. We are not being ignored. We are continuing to engage with them. And as it is now, a great deal of progress had been made by our ambassador in straightening out the path to ensure that there is meaningful engagement at the diplomatic level. So this is a hiccup that we are working on straightening out. So we are not being blue-ticked. We cannot be blue-ticked because we are such an important player to the United States of America as they are an important player to South Africa from a political point of view, from a trade point of view, and from a whole number of other important points of view. So we are not blue-tickable, if I can use that term. We cannot be ignored. And so we will, and they have sent a message. They sent a note verbal to inform us about the action that they took. So that shows that they have formalized the communication. So we are not being blue-ticked. We are being recognized, much as it first came out in a tweet, but it did finally come out in a formal communication.
But you do have to wonder, the question is, would South Africa be in a position to be critical of the USA, to say, well, why would it have to come out first in a tweet as the first point of communication? What does that mean? And in fact, that's not the only one. There's been a few similar communications from the USA about our country, and they've come out first via tweets, then in ongoing conversation. What do you make of that? Now, furthermore, the president then said, and this is interesting, South Africans should not have sleepless nights about what's happened.
We are being recognized, much as it first came out in a tweet, but it did finally come out in a formal communication. And we will engage with the United States of America in a formal way. We will do so with deep respect for them and for President Trump as well. We will deal with the U.S. as an important global player, as we are also an important player. So our relations with the United States are going to be put on even keel. So I would like the people of South Africa not to have sleepless nights, have peaceful nights, knowing that we are working on ensuring that this relationship is put on a good footing going forward, because we trade together, we play together in various sports, and we are political interactors in a number of forums, and so we have to deal with each other.
You certainly have. I mean, just interesting. We spoke about the role of a diplomat. Is Ramaphosa being the diplomat? Because there's not a word being spoken about whether the USA were wrong to send South Africa's ambassador back home or not. Or if they were wrong, then maybe, if they were right, maybe, then maybe the methodology was wrong. Did he? I don't think he said that at all. If I'm wrong, just you can tell me. Right, let's get to some other comments from you, right? And there's lots of people wanting to say different things. Here we are.
Afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, it was obvious. Obvious. I saw it coming after all this damage by Trump. It's not about the AfriForum. They're just trying to give themselves a name. It's not about them. It's about Israel, Ashraf. And the ambassadors, only black ambassadors from South Africa must not say anything against America, but American ambassadors can say everything about South Africa concerning that Russian ship there, coming from Brixton.
Okay, and there's more. If you saw it coming, why didn't you tell us this before, man? I'm just thinking about that now. Right, here's another one.
Hi, SAFM. I just think it's nice to say you would have kept quiet saying that right now. But I am a South African, and when Ashraf, you are a South African, and you know South Africans, we do snap. Eventually, someone would have snapped, and someone would have told Trump where to get off. So, yes, the ambassador, former ambassador, must just come back home, man. Ahade. They can send someone else, but he spoke his mind, and kudos to him.
And I'll tell you what, interesting, many people are critical of him, and I also see many others who are absolutely supportive. He could well come back as a hero to some people and being criticized by others. Well, that is South Africa. 4:30, here's the news headlines with Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. In the news headlines, President Cyril Ramaphosa says South Africa and the European Union share the vision of a multilateral world order. He says the order upholds the principles of the UN Charter, adheres to international law, and strengthens the institutions of global cooperation. Water and Sanitation Minister Phemi Majodina says government is prioritizing the investment in quality and sustainable water supply, and the government of Rwanda has severed its relations with the government of Belgium. This comes as Rwanda accuses its European counterpart of meddling in the affairs of the country, especially in relation to the ongoing conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg Rose.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 northbound queuing on the link to the N12 east at Kiluli's interchange, and the N1 northbound in Pretoria has a stationary vehicle at the R21 highway. In KZN, the N3 eastbound, a crash reported at Key Ridge, and on the N3 northbound, a truck crash near Moira Vier Toll Plaza. In the northwest, on the N14, protesting west of Ventersdorp, so expect delays and diversions, and on the N12, of protest action south of Klerksdorp, so expect delays and diversions. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound slow moving towards Okavango Road exit, the N7 checks Hadville Drive southbound slow moving towards Voortrekker Road, and the M3 southbound has a crash reported before Tokai Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, we spoke football and Morsi Netrugal earlier on, but he's out at Cape Town City. What about cricket now?
Well, Cricket South Africa have announced the Proteas women's contracted squad for the upcoming 2025-26 season. Reigning ICC Emerging Women's Cricketer of the Year, Annerie Dirksen, has earned her maiden national contract. The 23-year-old replaces the Western Province duo of Laura Goodall and Delmi Taka on the 15-player list. Led by captain Laura Favard and head coach Mandla Mashimbi, the Proteas women are gearing up for a significant year ahead. Their preparations will be focused on the ultimate prize in the ICC Women's Cricket World Cup 2025, set to take place in India later this year. In football, Nigeria and Sudan share the spotlight ahead of the two 2026 World Cup qualifying match days in Africa from Wednesday. Seeded to win Group C and automatically qualify, a Nigerian team boasting the past two African Footballers of the Year, Victor Osimhen and Ademola Lookman, lie fifth in a six-team section since finishing 2024 Africa Cup of Nations runners-up to host Ivory Coast. Nigeria have had three coaches since then. Then elsewhere, West Ham United forward Michail Antonio is confident that he'll be able to play again after suffering a serious leg injury in a road accident in December. Antonio's car hit a tree on his way home from training, shattering the Jamaica International's femur in 4 places, and he spent over 3 weeks in hospital after undergoing surgery. Meanwhile, Virat Kohli has rubbished rumours suggesting that he is considering retiring from international cricket. Kohli has not been in the best of form of late, particularly in the longer format of the game. This has led to rumours to develop that King Kohli might be considering retiring from Test cricket to focus on the shorter formats of the game. However, he has moved quickly to dispel any suggestion that he might be hanging up his boots anytime soon. In athletics, South African long jump champion and sprinter Cheswell Johnson is looking forward to returning a medal from his second World Indoor Championship appearance. The 28-year-old is part of the team departing on Tuesday, with the competition set to take place from the 21st to the 23rd of March. Over the weekend, Johnson secured victory in the men's senior 100-meter final at the Central Gauteng Athletics Championship, clocking 10.17 seconds, and is optimistic of improving on his 5th place finish last time out.
Yes, it's my second indoors ever. I've never practiced to do indoors. My first one was a loss, but I felt like I could have done better. I finished 5th, so I can only, in my eyes, how I see myself today, I can only go up from here, and I'm looking to bring a medal back. That's what I'm looking to do.
Finally, the International Olympic Committee Executive Board has recommended that boxing being included at the 2028 Games in Los Angeles. The sport was not part of the initial program when it was announced in 2022, but last month, World Boxing was given provisional recognition as the sport's international governing body. Now, the recommendation will still need to be approved by the IOC at this week's session in Greece, but outgoing IOC President Thomas Bach expects it to be given the green light. On that note, it is a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
Okay, perfect. Nobody's complained about your choice of MVP this time around. Just thought I'll tell you that. Yeah.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply. For 90 minutes, neighbors will not get along. Bafana Hugo are hunting for 3 points. But Dikwena want to cause an upset. This is the FIFA World Cup 2026 African qualifier. Witness the human rights pitch rivalry between South Africa and Lesotho on Friday, 21 March at 5:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, S3 and SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, first day of the week. Here's Makwe Masilela, Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. Makwe, let's talk about, local and global in a moment. But first up, results from Sun International.
Afternoon to you, Ashraf, to the listeners. Yes, their performance reflects the quality of their operating business, and the outstanding performance by Sunbet reflects the realities about sports betting. And just like the performance by their four largest urban casinos, which was marginal, and regional casinos post challenges, rooms, food, and beverages revenue from their resorts and hotels showed excellent growth. Group income 5.1%, with Sunbet income up 60%. Profits as adjusted headline earnings per share up 13.5%, total dividend up 13.3%, and Ashraf, they expect lower inflation and interest rates to be beneficial going forward. And markets are starting the week with a lot to digest. We've got Trump talking to Putin tomorrow. We've got the U.S. interest rate decision on Wednesday, Bank of Japan tomorrow. Ours is Thursday, just like the Bank of England. And China unveiled a comprehensive plan aimed at boosting domestic consumption. Market participants will ideally like to see central banks indicating that focus is shifting back to supporting economic activity, and that is away from inflation fighting. And according to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, both the U.S. and global economic growth will be lower, and all because of Trump's tariffs. Oil prices got a lift as U.S. vowed to keep on attacking Yemen's Houthis until Houthis stop attacking ships on the Red Sea. And also Chinese economic data fueled hopes for higher demand. Brent crude is up 1% at $71. Yellow metal hovers around the 3,000K as safe haven demand remained underpinned by trade tariffs, uncertainty, and also slowing economy. And traders are focusing now on the upcoming U.S. central bank meeting on Wednesday. And we see gold is up 0.2% at $2,990. Stocks are up, with the JSE up 0.6%, fueled mainly by our financials. And the rand firmed to 0.3% against the US dollar. Is now 18.12, 23.52 against the pound, and 19.77 against the euro.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for that update, and we'll connect again tomorrow. Thanks for that, Makwe. Right. Okay, let's get an update on that developing story regarding, just that really sad story, the Jocelyn Smith kidnapping trial. We'll talk about that next.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 104.6 FM in Tshwane. Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
And there's no question that besides all the other developing stories around SASSA, and there's many comments about that too, that the biggest issue still continues to be the fallout regarding what happened to Ebrahim Rasool and him being expelled. So lots of different comments. We'll take those comments, we'll take those calls. And if you've got a completely different view about where this is going, I'd like to hear about it too, just so that we can all learn too, right, about this issue. Let's now, however, talk about the Jocelyn Smith kidnapping trial. It continued in the High Court in Saldanha in the Western Cape, Cape West Coast today, in fact. And the SABC News reporter Tanya Kraus was in court, and now she's on the line to update us. Tanya, appreciate your time. Thanks for connecting on the National Pulse.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Thank you. I was suggesting that, in your line of duty, these must be amongst the more emotional cases you would need to be covering, isn't it?
Oh, yes, definitely. Especially when it comes to horrific details and just emotionally charged testimonies in court.
Absolutely. So what happened today? Share with us.
Well, this morning, the former accused turned state witness, Laurentia Lombard, continued her testimony from Friday. She basically just clarified some inconsistencies in her original statement to the police that she gave on the 15th of March last year. She said she was scared and stressed because it was her first time speaking like that in front of people, so there were some untruths. Mm-hmm. And she just concluded her testimony by saying that she regrets becoming involved in the case in the first, and because she has 4 children of her own. So she became very emotional and said she tried to stop Kelly from going ahead with the plan of selling Jocelyn, but Kelly didn't want to listen. And Laurentia just also appealed to whoever has the child to give her back.
And in terms of the untruths that she spoke about, or corrected rather, what were they?
One of them was basically just to clarify that on the Sunday, she said in her initial statement that she saw Kelly and Buta meeting the Sangoma at a white VW Polo vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
But in fact, it was Kelly and Jocelyn that met the Sangoma at the vehicle. And yeah, sure. And another one, if I can just get my notes here for you.
Okay. That's fine.
Another one was that, she said, for instance, that when Kelly and Jocelyn got into the car on the Monday, she saw Kelly get out of the car at a further spot. Now, this was in her original statement, but in fact, she corrected that, saying she did actually not see Kelly get out.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's just a couple of the inconsistencies that she wanted to clarify.
Anything else come up today?
Yes, there were actually 2 other witnesses that took the stand. The next witness after Laurentia was Kelly's sister, Michaela Daniels. And Daniels is actually a police officer based in Uppington in the Northern Cape. And she said that a week after Jocelyn's disappearance, Kelly told her that Jocelyn was still in the Middlepas informal settlement and that somebody wanted to sell her, but Saldanha was too heated, so to speak. And Michaela said the first time she contacted her sister, Kelly was in a state and crying, but on the following day, she was laughing and talking about new clothes that Gayton McKenzie bought her other 2 children. And they basically just had some words, a quarrel, and Michaela accused Kelly of not being truthful. And after her, the witness that came onto the stand did not want to be identified. And she testified that before Jocelyn's disappearance, she actually saw Kelly roughly pulling the child towards their home. And she said that while this happened, she saw the other accused, including Lombard, nearby, and heard Kelly uttering the words, "Ek sal jou wys," or it means "I'll show you," seemingly to her partner. And while she was pulling Jocelyn, she saw that the child lost a pink sandal. Now, I'm not too sure if the listeners are aware of this whole saga around the pink sandal that was found.
Remind us, please do.
As I understand, Gayton McKenzie found a pink sandal, and there were allegations that this pink sandal was Jocelyn's. And when Kelly was asked about the sandal, she said that her child did not have any pink sandals. So, yeah, there's some other inconsistencies coming out in this trial.
Okay, and lastly, you said there was another witness too, right?
Yeah, this was the witness that I just talked about that did not want to be identified.
Oh, I see. I
and
understand.
her cross-examination will continue tomorrow.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add in conclusion?
No, that's basically it. After this unidentified witness's cross-examination, we expect Laurentia Lombard to again get onto the stage and basically also be cross-examined.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Tanya Kraus, the SABC News reporter, covering that story, which is really, it is emotionally charged. Just hearing about it and the potential sale of, a child by their parents to another party, Sangoma or not. Just the thought of it. Oh my goodness. This is the National Pulse.
Who will rise in the Hollywood Bets Pro Series, where the top 8 women's cricket teams face off against each other to lift the inaugural Hollywood Bets Pro 50 and Pro 20 trophies? Local pride is at stake with the log table taking shape. Waza nawe! Get down to a stadium near you and show your support. Visit cricket.co.za for more information. Entrance to Hollywood Bets Pro Series matches is free.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
In fact, here's a comment, Ashraf. Tomorrow, please ask Pasek about SASSA's COVID borderline observations, where it was discovered that there were no transactions because neighboring countries' SASSA recipients were restricted. Did SASSA ever investigate those dormant fraudulent cards, Tabo, in Soweto? Okay, I'll get keys as well, just to remember that. So let's see if we can bring that up. And there's more. Here's another one. Ashraf, I listened to your interview with the SASSA spokesperson. It appears that officials don't know what the others are doing. I've just been told at Standerton SASSA office to go to Sakile offices after queuing for hours. They told us they were closing at 16:30, so 4:30 p.m., right? Sakile is on the other side of town, and I must take 2 taxis to get there from Alex in Standerton. That's not good at all. Right, let's see if I can pick up a call or two. Peter in the Northern Cape. Go for it, Peter. Hi.
Hi, Ashraf. I guess you are good, so I won't.
Thank you.
I just want to make a comment on the suspension of Ebrahim Rasool. Look, and I listened earlier to the comment by a former ambassador.
Yeah.
Look, Donald Trump and his administration's mind is made up. Long before Ebrahim could have said anything, they've taken a decision that they're going to isolate South Africa, on whether it's on the basis of what AfriForum said or whether it's just that they don't like Africans in general. That administration has taken a decision. I mean, if you look what happened, they had an ambassador here who wrongly shed information about South Africa.
Yeah.
We never even contemplated suspending him, even when it was live and untested versions. And for something that he raises on a webinar, and suddenly now they were just looking for reasons. That's the harsh reality of the matter.
Okay.
And no matter who says what, Donald Trump is not going to change his attitude towards South Africa. What we need to do, bite the bullet for the next 4 years, 4.5 years, and the new administration comes in, because he certainly won't win. Republicans won't win the election again without him.
Well, you never know that. I mean, who are we to say, really? On the issue of the former American ambassador to South Africa, yeah, I mean, I think there was a huge row, but he certainly wasn't sent packing. And I think, as one of the clear points is that it is an unequal relationship. We're not going to like what we're saying, but it's unequal, meaning that it's heavily loaded in favor of the USA in terms of the relationship because of the trade relationship. If you listen to the president today as well, yes, he said we'll have a briefing. Yes, he's saying we have to strengthen relations, but there's nowhere that he said that this is unacceptable, that you could just send my ambassador packing, even if he was wrong, for example. He didn't say that, and I can only think the only reason why he would not have said that is because of this unequal relationship. Tell me what you think. Janus in Cape Town, go for it.
Hi, Ashraf. The question is, who nominate and approve the ambassadors from our countries? Isn't this the role of the president?
I would think so, yeah.
If he did it, didn't he know about the approach of Rousseau, that he's going to say what he's going to say? Was it a stupid decision or irrational? I think I also will blame our president for that, because, it's causing us the problem, and people blaming that and that and that. But next, I think the president who is nominating and taking the charges of the ambassadors, he always the deliberate action from the other president, or stupidity, or irrational. I don't know. Thank you very much.
All right, there we are, Janus. Well, I mean, yeah, it is the president's prerogative. I suppose the same with cabinet ministers too. Look, what we don't know, we're not privy to the briefing, clearly accepting that Ebrahim Rasool's very, very experienced, let's put it that way. and clearly knows the terrain and therefore was chosen for that purpose. Whether he was the right person or not, I mean, I can't tell you because I don't really know what happened within the briefings of the president and him. And then when he was sent there, what was he expected to do? I think Ibrahim Rasool himself has said in the past, like the latest 2-3 weeks ago, that this one is a case of, it's going to be very different. I need to get the right words and I don't have it with me, but it may not be the same as before because the situation has changed. And I am paraphrasing, right?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I think Ibrahim Rasool deserves a hero's welcome when he comes back. What more can we still gain as a country by praising Donald Trump? The horse has already bolted. We have got nothing to gain from Donald Trump's presidency. We must continue to criticize him openly or publicly. Thank you very much. Pipa Maila Machaba from Letswata.
Thank you. I think with the issue of Rasool, we're almost forgetting, this issue will blow over in a couple of weeks and then what? But the bigger issue is that country's president said that this country, South Africa, is doing bad things. And what's happened about that? Like, what have we done as a country to country basis? What have we done about that this country is doing bad things? And we know there's a lot of it that's fabricated. We're talking about bad things on racial lines. And we know it's fabricated, a lot of it. And what have we done about that?
Afternoon, Ashraf. How are you, Mafuta? Hey, Ashraf, one way to describe the whole saga around Ambassador Rasool is unsurprised. For me, this has been forthcoming, but I would love to express my feelings towards how the president or the presidency had expressed themselves. I like it. I like the way President Ramaphosa is always calm and focused and relaxed on these sensitive issues. That's what a leader should be for me, Ashraf.
And should he be calm and sensitive and very, very decided in his choices, so very deliberate about it, as opposed to just shooting from the hip? Should he do that? We know others who shoot from the hip and they're admired for that too.
Rasool failed to be a diplomat, head of diplomat, that respect the host country. You don't just criticize directly a president of the country for his decisions. Unlike South Africa, America is not a banana republic. I knew Rasool will regret and he will be on his way home. America is not a banana republic like South Africa, where foreigners strike and chase away the police to do their work. Donald Trump is another crazy job president. These 4 years will be like 40 years. And the country must be prepared. You to mess up with Donald Trump. Sometimes you even mess up when you're doing the right thing. God.
It's so interesting you say America's not a banana republic like South Africa. Then you say they got a crazy president. And they'll even mess up when you're doing the right thing. So what do you call the leader then of that country? I mean, just think about that, what you just said. Savage in Attridgeville, hello.
Ashraf, how are you?
I'm good indeed, right? What's your point?
My point is, earlier on, I thought it was just Elijah Mhlanga who was elite with plans on homework. Now even the president is talking about this early childhood development. My point is that it is not about quantity. You can even start a child at 3 months and send him to school until grade 20. But it's about the quality of that education that you claiming to want to give that matters. Like if you look at, even on TikTok is the one that actually gives us information. If you look at a child, a small child in China, the amount of equipment and laboratory stuff they have in class, it's way better than our matriculants. So now when it's talk about early childhood development, start children early. First, work on the quality of education that you're giving within the frames and structures.
But I mean, it can be both as well. Can't it be both? I mean, the quality, absolutely, but the quantity, it must reach the largest amount of people, or youngsters in this case, children that need to benefit from it.
Yes, I understand. But my argument would be that if throughout the wider spectrum, you only go to lose. Rather, let's say hypothetically using numbers. You start a child from 6 years until matric with quality education. It's better than starting him at 3 years until 50 years with just so
Okay. Your line's going progressively worse. My apology for that. So we didn't even hear that last part. But I mean, you've made your point. I heard you, right? About the quality, not the quantity.
Rasool failed to be a diplomat, head of diplomat, that respect the host country. You don't just criticize directly a president of the country for his decisions. Unlike South Africa, America is not a banana republic. I knew Rasool.
We just played that now. My apology for that. Let's do another.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. This is Peter here in Hartswater. Ashraf, most unfortunately, I don't have a one word for this issue. But I do support the president when he say, let us wait for Mr. Rasool to come and give a full report. Because where are we sitting now? We don't know the challenges and frustrations that led him to say what he said. So I believe and trust the idea of the president saying, no, let him come with a report, then we'll take it from there. We are all humans, Mr. Ashraf. We are all human beings. You see, we live like human beings, so we can do anything, you see. Thank you.
Interesting one. I'll tell you what, I mean, I hear you. If you know better, just tell me, because I'm trying to think. I mean, I know what the president said today. He said, look, let him come back and then we'll talk to him and, get a full report. And I mean, I would do the same thing. So I don't think he's wrong about it. You can't formulate a complete position without getting the key person to deliver that report. But could the president at least have said that that person is our ambassador to your country, and I am disappointed that you've just sent him packing, just so that you know. However, we will await the full report from him. I'm just trying to say, like, should he at least said something like that? You think Trump would have left that alone? Think about it. And this is not about who's right and wrong, okay? It's just about who thinks they're right and wrong and acts upon it, okay? Kevin in Cape Town, what's your point? Kevin, hello? Yeah?
Hello. Hi. Sorry about that. My name's Kevin. I'd just like to share my thoughts on the ambassador being recalled.
Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. You see, to whom much has been given, much is expected. So he has a responsibility of holding the whole South Africa in the USA. Now, with that said, also, we are brought up with these things that we must speak properly, our tone must be properly, respect is very important. No matter how the things can go, but respect is very important. In a court of law, you can only speak in a certain tone and answer certain questions in certain way. This ambassador, I have a very, very strong feeling he was getting negative response from the U.S. government during this time. And he just wanted to blurt out whatever he wanted to blurt out just to come away from there. I don't feel that this guy is capable of any further doings in the parliament. If he already got a black mark on his name, I don't expect him to be doing any other things in South Africa. If our parliament condones that guy and says that, hey, you know what, he did the right thing or be on his side, that guy is not going to learn, and also South Africans are not going to learn, because when they speak, their tone has to be respectable.
Okay, you made your point. I hear you. Thank you for that. Right. Okay. Well, as I expected, there are so many different views on this issue, and you know what's the good news? You have your own view too, right? Let's get the news. It's 5:00. Here's Greg House.
Thank you, Ashraf. SA and EU share common vision, and Rwanda cuts relations with Belgium. Good day to you. President Cyril Ramaphosa has reiterated in his weekly newsletter that South Africa and the European Union share a vision of a multilateral world order. He says the order upholds the principles of the UN Charter, adheres to international law, and strengthens the institutions of global cooperation. Pusi Chimombe reports.
His statements follow the 8th SA-EU summit held in Cape Town last week.
In his letter to the nation today, the President said that the EU agrees with South Africa's view that the UN Security Council needs to be reformed so that it can be more inclusive, efficient and democratic. He says as a G20 member, the EU also expressed its support for South Africa's G20 presidency and its emphasis on solidarity, equality and sustainable development. Busibo Phela, SABC News.
Water and Sanitation Minister Phemi Majordina says government is prioritising the investment in quality and sustainable water supply. She's one of the speakers at the International Water Association International Conference on Water Reclamation and Reuse in Cape Town. The conference will facilitate conversations about the reuse of water. Majordina says the South African government will prioritise investment in water infrastructure.
Our national water resource strategy calls for increased sustainable use of groundwater, desalination of seawater, return flows from treated wastewater system, reuse of other poor quality water such as acid mine drainage and brackish groundwater. Therefore, your theme and your purpose here, it augurs well with our strategy that we must focus on reuse of water.
There are a few details emerging regarding the meeting between the ANC and the SACP as both parties remain locked behind closed doors at the Thule House in Johannesburg. The two alliance partners are trying to find each other following the SACP's conference resolution to contest the elections independently. The Communist Party said its decision was necessitated by 2 decades of the ANC's refusal to reconfigure the alliance. Another issue straining relations is the ANC's invitation to the DA to join a GNU after the ANC failed to obtain an absolute majority. The SACP has also differed with the ANC over the recent VAT hike proposal in the finance minister's budget speech. Rwanda severed its relations with Belgium. This comes as Rwanda accuses its European counterparts of meddling in the affairs of the country, especially in relation to the ongoing conflict in the DRC. Bonola Maribe has more.
Rwanda says that Belgium has taken sides in the regional conflict that is currently underway in the DRC. The government of the East African country further accused their European counterparts of using manipulation as a way to destabilize both the country and region as a whole. They say that this decision reflects the country's commitment to safeguarding their national interests and the dignity of its citizens. Bonolo Maribe, SABC News.
This comes after SADC terminated the mandate of its mission in the DRC and directed the phased withdrawal of troops. The decision followed the tragic deaths of 18 SADC troops, including 14 from South Africa, as M23 rebels advanced on the city of Goma. M23 is allegedly backed by Rwanda. The top story: President Ramaphosa has reiterated in his weekly newsletter that South Africa and the EU share a vision of a multilateral world order. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Khos.
In your sports this hour, Maswangai withdrawn from Bafana squad due to injury. CSA announced the Proteas women's national contracts for the 2025-26 season, and McElroy defeats JJ Spawn in a playoff for second player's title. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg queuing towards Crown Interchange. The N1 southbound in Sunninghill has a crash near Rivonia Road. The N12 eastbound in Germiston, a stationary vehicle before Craft Road exit. Witkoppen Road westbound in Johannesburg North is slow moving towards Market Street. And the N1 northbound in Pretoria has delays towards Rigel Avenue. In KZN, the N3 westbound is stationary truck before Hammersdale. The N3 westbound is a crash before Key Ridge Interchange, and Old North Coast Road is closed just north of Columbine Place. In the northwest, on the N14, protesting reported west of Ventersdorp, so expect delays and diversions. And on the N12, protesting reported south of Klerksdorp, so expect delays and diversions. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound queuing towards Racecourse Road exit. The M7 Jakes Havel Drive southbound is queuing towards the R300 highway, and the N1 outbound slow moving towards Okavango Road exit. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you. Do great solutions start with good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, we'll shortly we'll play some clips regarding investigations, IPOD investigations into matters around the KZN Police Commissioner. That comes up just now. But for now, let's stay with the issue broadly around South Africa, USA, and Ibrahim Rasool, but with a different take. And this is the issue of government communications. How does the government communicate? Who's in charge? Is it the president? Is it government communications as a department? Who speaks on behalf of government, especially when it comes to an issue like this? Now, I say this because, the issue of the USA and South Africa has been going on since Donald Trump was inaugurated. It's literally happened from that day. It's been non-stop pot shots against our country, right? So the latest, of course, the declaring of Ibrahim Rasool as persona non grata. But there's been interesting things about remarks made around this issue. You may have heard over the weekend the Water and Sanitation Minister, Phemi Majordina, called for calm for South African citizens following the expulsion of South African ambassador. But she also said a whole lot more, like things will be sorted out. And it gets me thinking. Now, I remember at the time when we had, when we first heard about the possibilities of that AGOA deal being broken to South Africa, then Gwede Mantashe also made the point that, let us withhold minerals from the USA. If they don't give us money, let's not give them minerals. And that just gets me thinking about when it comes to important international issues like this, who's in charge and who decides who can comment and who can't, right? So my guest now is Tsepo Matseba, the Managing Director of Reputation First. Tsepo, good to connect with you once again on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Ashraf. Great to be here.
Thank you. I thought it's such an important conversation. I'm glad we can talk to you about it. So we'll look at the facts just now, but in this, generally speaking, who should be deciding on a thing like this, in terms of a typical government or a big corporate situation? Who decides who speaks to the public?
Yeah, it's a difficult position. And it's difficult because there are too many government entities, and the one that is supposed to be central is often not given the authority to decide on strategic conversations, and that is the Government Communication and Information System. That's the one that's supposed to actually say, well, this issue affects a complex array of government portfolios, and therefore in that context it becomes a central issue, and the GCIS reports to the presidency, and therefore it would be within the context that the president is aware, and it's that in that way centralized. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen like that, and that's how you see everybody making their own decisions.
Okay.
And far worse, beyond GCIS is that even at the level of DIRCO, there doesn't seem to be coordination there. There seems to be some fragmentation, because if DIRCO issued an advisory to all government departments and say this is a government position, it would minimize all these sporadic responses.
And I mean, I understand that. Let's take the example of the Water and Sanitation Minister. She was asked about other things and then was asked to comment on this issue, and she went ahead and commented about it. And my thought about it, I mean, it's great for us as news people that she does comment, but I mean, wouldn't it be the right thing to say, actually, it's out of my domain, I don't have a brief to comment on that? Or does one feel like I just have to comment because I've been asked?
Well, if you had been asked about an issue that impacts water as an infrastructure or industry, and the extent to which the United States has responded to an issue impacting water, well within their right as a minister to comment. But in the context of the government of national unity, you can see that the youngness of this government, or the formula, exposes itself in numerous shapes or forms. There's no experience. In the era of former President Thabo Mbeki, we used to have what he called a government position, and the GCIS at the time, or Government Communication and Information System, was central to everything. And if cabinet has taken a position, everyone would rally behind that position, and there would be a very clear spokesperson on a specific issue. But right now it looks like it's free for all, and definitely the Minister of Water and Sanitation shouldn't be speaking on matters of foreign affairs or foreign policy or international relations, because we have an incumbent in that environment, and we should give them the space and the opportunity. And the minute we all speak at the same time, we create chaos and we create misunderstanding, and negative perceptions grow.
And I mean, do you get a sense from what you've heard, right? Because you've been following the media, Of course, the latest one is the issue of the ambassador Ibrahim Rasool, but there could be others that, in fact, there are many examples of different ministers or leaders effectively speaking on their own, perhaps out of kilter with the official position.
But to an extent, yes, because no one actually, there is no policy direction that says either through the ruling party or through the government of national unity or through cabinet that says, well, we will use our minerals to stretch the discussions or dictate discussions between us and Washington, South Africa and Washington, and therefore there was no merit for the minister of Gwede to actually go in that direction, because it's not a coordinated approach. Instead, what you would expect, at the very least, either a message should come from the minister in the presidency, accountable for all those entities that are responsible for communication, including GCIS, or we should give the space and the authority to the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Lamola, to actually engage the processes and have these conversations in a consistent and meaningful fashion. And the fact that it actually got broken also from the top when President Cyril Ramaphosa went ahead and arranged a chat with Elon Musk in a cordial fashion, but that seems to have happened outside of diplomatic systems and outside of DERCO, and created its own domestic perception problems that we are not speaking from one hymn sheet, we don't respect a particular department, and maybe that the current minister in international relations does not have the same level of, and the same level of respect as a previous one like Naledi Pandor did.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that they're doing that, I mean, were you aware of any one of these ministers being, reprimanded to say, but you know what, you can't speak on policy like that? So, for example, you got a threat around AGOA, but your response like, we won't do business with you anymore, we won't sell you our minerals. I mean, when you respond that way, has there been any slapping on the wrists internally?
I don't really think so. I've seen some conversations in public, and they may well not be even government official statements, where a minister of a different party, the Democratic Alliance in the government of national unity, has said something in advance. For example, also they've recently criticized the VAT announcement in advance and said that they won't stand for it as a political party. But within the government of national unity, they are supposed to also wait for the Minister of Finance and Treasury to articulate a view, and they can deal with it internally and then send their political party to speak. But the minister, if you are a minister already in cabinet, you can't be speaking on your own. So I don't think really there are consequences at this point in time, because everyone will speak on electricity and energy. Everyone will speak on the Bella Act and basic and education. So there is a plethora of free for all. I think where the direction should go is that the president needs to, through his cabinet spokesperson, start reining the ministers in. And I've heard the minister in the presidency a few times trying her best to have people toe the line, but unfortunately,
but not succeeding in that case. Yeah.
They are not succeeding at this specific point because the GNU is so diverse in its ideas. People differ, and so that a lack of alignment is creating a communication challenge for South Africa.
I mean, I'm just thinking now, and I'm reflecting, me speaking to, say, Naledi Pandor, the minister at the time, around the issue of the ICJ and in Israel, and at the same time asking about crime in South Africa and asking her to comment about that. I knowing how she would respond, she would literally say, "That's not my domain. Speak to the Minister of Safety and Security," isn't it?
Yes, I mean, but that speaks to a level of experience that Naledi Pandor or Dr. Pandor has over a period of time. And you'll see that when you compare ministers who have been around cabinet for a particular period of time, even the ones that don't gain positive and media coverage, like Angie Motshekga, but she would understand cabinet process and protocol, and as a result, you'll see that there's a degree of decorum and maturity whenever she engages, even under serious criticism or serious attacks. And with the younger ministers or ministers who have not had the experience, including their deputies, you'll see that there's a little bit of excitement when they speak to the media. For example, in defense, Deputy Minister Holomisa said something like, "We are not scared of anyone." But remember, South Africa's intent together with SADC in the DRC was not about intimidation, threats, and power, but actually about peacekeeping. And so your tone when you engage in those type of things, especially given the fact that Kagame had already made emotional statements or negative statements, harsh statements via Twitter or X towards South Africa, it would be ill-advised for a minister to go in that direction, or deputy minister to go in that direction. So the sense I get is that there needs to be not only training but a policy reminder, and that needs to come from the president. It just can't come from the minister and the president.
Let me then
the
bring
president
on,
needs to rein his team in.
Okay, so two very topical things around the same issue then. So Ibrahim Rasool as an ambassador is effectively an extension of government as well. He's sent there, right? What then are your thoughts about him pronouncing on the USA and Trump the way he did?
Yeah, it's unfortunate because there is freedom of expression and freedom of speech, but in the context of the sensitivities of the relationship between South Africa and the U.S. in recent times, the world and the U.S., where the U.S., Donald Trump and Elon Musk will simply go on Twitter or X and make a very erratic statement and waiting for somebody to fall for that trap. And we could have learned lessons from Zelensky of Ukraine when he actually challenged the U.S. president in the White House, in the Oval Office, constructively. So as an ambassador, you know that you are a visitor, you are a guest, and certain views may be academically astute, maybe politically and ideologically smart, but unfortunately in somebody's house, you've got to actually toe the line. You can't go to a man's house that has just kicked you out last week or told you that they would kick you out, and then you tell them that their furniture or their shoes or their wife's new dress is terribly looking. And in that sense, you spark emotions unnecessarily.
Okay, it's an interesting point, because I mean the point that I think many of us have spoken about it is that we're not even discussing the merits of Ibrahim Rasool's comments. It's possible, if you analyze what he said, and it was certainly not an outburst, that you actually may find that the basis of what he's talking about is the basis of a real case study in terms of where the world is heading. So it could well be someone with remarkable foresight, may well be. We'll find out later on, right? Now, having said that regarding him, what do you think of the president's response so far?
Yeah, I mean, I've listened carefully to the president. I think it was very composed and very necessary for him to say we will need to wait for the ambassador to come and give us a report. And once we've gone through that report and that discussion, we'll make further pronouncements. And additionally, he reinforced the fact that the nation should have trust, in the sense that the fact that the situation happened with this ambassador doesn't mean that trade relations or diplomatic discussions are not taking place, that there's a continuation. And I thought when he spoke, I got a sense that we need to give him the benefit of the doubt and trust that he has airtime, as he says, with Washington, and that is just not being ignored.
But lastly, very, very quickly, I mean, I think he's right by saying he needs to wait for the briefing session with Ibrahim Rasool. I mean, that makes sense. But should he have been a bit more forceful in, remember, he represents our country that's been under attack from that country, right? And Ibrahim Rasool was fired via a tweet, okay? Should he have at least said that I am disappointed that my ambassador has been sacked via a tweet? But
he's already said that through... Yeah, I would imagine that he's already said that through his Minister of DECO. Ralph Lamola that's the first thing that he said, that it's unfortunate that this was done in this fashion. So there was no need actually to reiterate. I think that there's clarity in South Africa's focus that we will not be bullied. And then through DECO's minister, he said, well, this was not the appropriate channel, but right now we are following the right channels and we do have airtime.
Okay, well, thanks for that. Some very, very important insights that you've shared with us, Tsepo Matseba. We'll have a podcast up of that pretty quickly. Tsepo is the Managing Director for Reputation First. And of course, he's an expert in that space in communications. You can give us your opinion about what he just said and agree or disagree. After all, hey, this is the National Pulse.
Stunks and Negati are in a big search for their first win, while the indomitable Lions want to hold on to the summit of Group D. The bottom of the table clashes with the top. This is the FIFA World Cup 2026 African qualifier. Experience the joy of African football. Eswatini versus Cameroon. This Wednesday, 19 March at 6 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Join us for the first ever Radio 2000 Annual Family Day in partnership with SABC2 on Saturday, 22 March at the Fat Olive, Pelindaba Road, Lanseria, Johannesburg. Enjoy go-karts, five-a-side soccer, pedal boats, and more. Explore the arts and crafts market and treat your taste buds at our food stalls. And a kid zone will keep the little ones entertained. Gates open at 10 a.m. and tickets start from just 100 Rand at ticketpro.co.za. Follow us on Radio 2000_ZA. Radio 2000. Our music, your memories. Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, here's another important issue back home. Ian Cameron, the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Police in Parliament, spoke to SFM's First Take about the IPID investigating KZN's police commissioner, that's Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. That's over allegations of interfering in the arrest of a senior correctional service official facing drug-related charges. Now, Ian Cameron starts by emphasizing that the law must take its course.
I think looking at it objectively, first start with a complaint. Look, the law must take its course, and due process must follow. So it's important that if IPID does have something of substance, they need to get the job done and they need to do what they need to do. In terms of the, how you mentioned the whole potential smear campaign, I would not be surprised. I must be honest. 2 weeks ago, the Provincial Commissioner of KZN was quite outspoken at the Police Portfolio Committee about this type of campaign, and he made it abundantly clear that he wouldn't stop investigating certain persons who are potentially involved in these types of issues. And now this happens. And it's also interesting if you look at it, the fact that it says it's an anonymous tip-off. You must question that. That being said, again, it's not necessarily ironic, and again, IPID needs to do what they need to do. Due process must follow, as I said.
But given that anonymous nature of the complaint, what measures are in place to prevent the complaint system from being exploited for political or even personal gain? And how will IPID ensure the complaint's legitimacy?
Well, this is the challenge, and this is something that we've got such a massive fight about ahead of us, because I can tell you, you remember the case of the VIP protectors of the Deputy President? That specific matter, at the beginning, the amount of threats and the question regarding safety of the victims was significant. And I mean, that was something that happened very publicly. So you can imagine how much higher the risk is when it's something that isn't public, because I believe, the more public something is, the lower the risk with certain types of matters. And so I don't think the system is guarded enough regarding this. At the moment, there's a massive, massive fight inside the crime intelligence space. And this is one of the things that the Provincial Commissioner spoke about. And this crime intelligence battle that's ongoing, I think, has caused a lot of instability and a lot of doubt amongst certain leaders within the South African Police Service. And it's come to the point where the mistrust is really causing a significant operational problem, at least in my opinion. I know that there are certain role players or stakeholders that speak of it as just being, basic conflict. But I can tell you now that at the moment, large parts of the South African Police Service fight blind because there is no crime intelligence. They are too busy fighting other fights. And this is one of the things that was mentioned in that meeting 2 weeks ago.
As the Portfolio Committee on Police, what guarantees can be provided that this investigation remains impartial and unaffected by those external influences that you're talking about?
So we can't guarantee much from the Portfolio Committee. I mean, I think reactively we can, we can question things later on. We'll obviously monitor it, and it's important that it is done objectively. So we'll support IPID if they are running an objective process, and obviously we need to see what comes out on the other end. The most critical thing to me is to make sure that from a committee point of view, we remain objective and that we respect due process.
So that's the voice of Ian Cameron, the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Police in Parliament, commenting on IPID investigating the KZN Police Commissioner. He was a guest on SAFM's First Take, and you also heard the voice of Elvis Preslin in all that conversation. Right now, there's also been a response to that issue. The Minister of, and there's a statement, right, dated the 17th of March. The Minister of Police, Mr. Senzo Mchunu, has noted the article published by News 24 regarding a complaint filed with IPID, right, concerning the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner. IPID has since issued a statement correcting the article. In commenting on the matter, the minister stated the following: "We welcome and fully endorse the statement issued by IPID on this matter. I do want to repeat that I have not laid any complaint against Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi. I do want to state, however, that we need to intensify our efforts on effective and efficient law enforcement in the Republic of South Africa. The South African Police Service is hard at work all over the country, at head office and in the provinces. Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, like all the other provincial commissioners, is working hard in the fight against crime in KZN, and that is duly recognized by the Ministry of Police. The ministry supports all provincial commissioners in their efforts. At all material times, the Ministry of Police works to uphold the rule of law and will do everything to strengthen the mechanisms to fight against crime. As an independent and impartial oversight body, IPID conducts its investigations without external influence, and its decisions regarding cases under its jurisdiction are made independently." So that is a statement from the Ministry of Police. Right, maybe time for a quick Naran Singh saying Ashraf Rasool has been trumped, and then saying, "Ashraf, love you to host a fireside chat with Zuma and Trump." I'd love it too. Don't know if I'd love the conversation, but I'd love to have the opportunity. If you want to arrange it, please go ahead and do so anyway. Right, lots of other comments naturally around Trump and Ramaphosa too.
Ashraf, good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and your team. Great show always. I'm listening to these clips from our president to Mamina. Ashraf, there's nothing South Africa can do to America. Even himself, President Ramaphosa, he just talk. There's nothing. Donald Trump is another guy. That guy is too hard. So this is a joke. It's Uncle JJ, the truck driver.
JJ, but a joke on who? I wonder what you're trying to say in the end, Uncle JJ. We'll take many of your calls, your comments, your WhatsApp messages, your tweets if you are tweeting, tagging SFM Radio and myself on the X platform. We'll do that in a moment. Well, not quite in a moment, but coming up pretty shortly. 5:30 is the news headlines. Here's Greg House.
Quick look at the headlines there. Tekwini Municipality in KZN says has allocated 10 billion rand to rebuild water, electricity and solid waste management infrastructure. Social grant recipients have been warned that the yellow SASSA cards will stop functioning after the March 20th deadline. And President Ramaphosa has reiterated in his weekly newsletter that South Africa and the EU share the vision of a multilateral world order. There's a full update at the top of the hour.
SAFM. guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 northbound in Pretoria queuing towards Garsfontein Road. In Bedfordview, the N12 eastbound has a crash reported after Giluli's interchange, and the N12 eastbound has a crash reported at Edenvale Road. In KZN, the M13 eastbound queuing towards the M7 St. John's Avenue, the N3 westbound queuing towards Spaghetti Junction, the N3 eastbound queuing towards Spaghetti Junction, and Chris Hani Road northbound queuing at Queen Nandi Drive. In the northwest on the N14 protesting west of Ventersdorp, expect delays and diversions. And the N12 has protest action reported south of Klerksdorp, so expect delays and diversions. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound slow moving towards Okavango Road exit. The M5 southbound is queuing towards the Racecourse Road exit. The N7 checks Havel Drive southbound queuing towards the N2 highway. The M3 Philip Hossano Drive outbound slow moving towards Hospital Bend, and the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound slow moving towards Hospital Bend. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, Tumi, so it was football or soccer earlier on, then cricket. What do we have now?
We're back to football, where Bafana coach Hugo Bruce has been forced to replace Orlando Pirates midfielder Patrick Maswangai, who picked up an injury at the weekend. Maswangai has been replaced by Polokwane City midfielder Rodney Mapangule. Now, South Africa arrived in Polokwane today ahead of the encounter at the new Peter Mokaba Stadium on Friday. Bruce and his team arrived at the camp base at the ranch outside Polokwane, and they will fly by charter plane to Ivory Coast to face Benin on Tuesday, the 25th of March. Meanwhile, Kaizer Chiefs coach Nasruddin Nabi says that a big team like Amakosi needs more rebuilding time, not just 7 to 8 months. Amakosi went down 2-0 to relegation-threatened Richards Bay at the Kings Welitini Stadium in Umlazi yesterday, and inconsistency in results has been one of their biggest challenges, and Nabi says that they at least know what they're looking for.
La première chose, le premier objectif, on est toujours en phase de processus parce qu'on ne peut pas dire autre chose et dire le contraire le lendemain.
It's true that we are in a process of rebuilding the team, and a big team like Kaizer Chiefs doesn't. It's not built in 6 months or 7 months. You need more time than that, but the only thing that we know is we know exactly what we need and where we need it to have a better team or a better club.
Then Cape Town City have parted ways with interim coach and technical director Mashin Etugrol. Etugrol joined City in January to replace Eric Tinkler and got off to a great start, beating Orlando Pirates and Kaizer Chiefs. However, all in all, City have suffered 8 defeats, won 3 matches, and also managed the same amount of draws in the 14 fixtures that Etugrol has been in charge. Now, according to SABC Sport, it's believed that the coach is the one that decided to step aside, citing quality of playing personnel as the reason, therefore. Then in rugby, Stormers touring squad has reportedly been boosted by the return of Sasha Feinberg, Mgomezulu and Damian Willemse against the Scarlets on Saturday. Their return is a timely boost for head coach John Dobson, who has been navigating an injury-hit campaign. They're sitting 12th on overall standings. The Stormers are level with Scarlets, who could also be strengthened by returning Wales internationals. Then the International Olympic Committee Executive Board has recommended that boxing being included at the 2028 Games in Los Angeles. Now, the sport was not part of the initial program when it was announced in 2022, but last month, World Boxing was given a provisional recognition as the sport's international governing body. The recommendation will still need to be approved by the IOC at this week's session in Greece, but outgoing IOC President Thomas Bach expected to be given the green light. In Cricket South Africa have announced the Proteas women's contracted squad for the upcoming 2025-26 season. Reigning ICC Emerging Women's Cricketer of the Year, Annerie Dirksen, has earned her maiden national contract. The 23-year-old replaces the Western Province duo of Laura Goodall and Dalmi Tucker on the 15-player list. Led by captain Laura Fulvard and head coach Mandla Mashimbi, the Proteas women are gearing up for a significant year ahead. In golf, Rory McIlroy claimed a 3-hole aggregate playoff against JJ Spaun to claim his second title at the Players' Championship. McIlroy took a one-shot lead when he birdied the par 5 16th hole, and the task of protecting that advantage became way easier when Spaun hit his tee shot over the famed island green at par 3 17th and into the water. McIlroy finished up with a bogey and finished the playoff at 1 over. On that note, it is a wrap from my side. I'll have more on other sports tomorrow.
Right, good. So we haven't had a real
Here,
debate today.
there, and
Tomorrow. We'll do it.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, let's get to those numbers now with Jimmy Moyaha on the first day of the business week. So it's lots to expect. Jimmy, what's moving markets today?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. We've got quite a few things moving the markets today, most notably the major announcements from our banking world. The Deputy CEO and our former Deputy CEO at Standard Bank moving across to ABSA. I've got a conversation with the director at Denker Capital, who happens to be our banking specialist, around that big move from that perspective. And then we've got a bunch of results that have come out. Outsurance gave us results on Friday. Obviously, because we don't have a show on Friday, we couldn't cover that. So we're going to speak to the Outsurance CEO around those interim numbers. And then we've got full year results from Thungela Resources as well as Sun International. I've got conversations with both those CEOs as well to get a sense of how their businesses have performed over the last financial year and what their markets are looking like from each case. And then because it's Monday, we've got a personal finance segment, and we're taking a look at, following on from last week's budget speech, we're taking a look at how the VAT increase is likely to impact your monthly shopping basket. It's always interesting to see these VAT increases come into effect from a financial perspective, but what does it actually mean for the groceries and the monthly expenses that we go through, that we now have to pay more for because we effectively don't have a choice in that, if that VAT increase is, of course, voted on when it does sit in front of Parliament. So we're going to look at those implications and see from a personal finance perspective if there are any clever ways that we can get around that from a savings perspective. Before we get to that, the markets have had a better day. Markets have started off the week on a strong footing, especially if you're looking at some of the news that have come out from markets locally and globally. When we look at things like the gold price, it's back towards that $3,000 an ounce level where we had seen those all-time highs kind of touch last week. But by and large, all markets are in the green, with the exception, of course, at the moment of the Nasdaq. That's down about 1/3%. All Asian markets closed out in the green. The Nikkei, the biggest gainer there, 0.93% in the green there. If we look at European markets, the DAX, the biggest gainer there, 0.71%. The FTSE in London, a close second, almost 2/3% in the green. Our own local markets, financial stocks up almost a full percent, 0.96%. Industrial 0.45% in the green, and resources 0.8% in the green. The all share 0.7% in the green, and the top 40 2/3% in the green. So great day for equity markets across the board. And when we look at currencies, an even better day for the rand against the dollar. It's back at 18 rand and 10 cents, gaining almost a full 2% against the US dollar there. Still 23 rand 50 against the British pound and 19 rand 77 against the euro. One Australian dollar will cost you 11 rand and 53 cents. Anyone looking at Bitcoin, we're at around $83,000, $83,200, or in South African rand terms, just over 1.5 million rand because of that stronger rand from that perspective. Quick look at those commodities prices that I mentioned. The gold price, $2,996 a fine ounce at the moment, up about 2% for the day. Brent crude, $70.90 a barrel, not too bad, holding steady there, not moving up by too much. Platinum, $1,023 an ounce. Palladium lagging behind, $975 a fine ounce there. So I've got lots to dig into a little later on when I come back. We've also got interest rate decisions out of the US and South Africa this week amid the global tensions that are out there between the two countries. So we're going to look at if these global tensions will have any bearing on the interest rate policies or the directions that each central bank decides to take. But we're going to dig into those and other stories a little later on. For now, Ashraf, back to you.
Okay, perfect. You enjoy your show 6 to 7 every single weekday, well, besides Fridays, with the SFM Market Update, followed by Sport with Michael Abramson thereafter. And a whole lot of other current affairs issues coming up, Oliver Dixon amongst them, coming up much later on. So listen out for that too. Right. Okay, time for me to get a feel of your pulse right after this.
This Human Rights Month, SAFM is deepening a culture of social justice and human rights. It's a time to reflect, engage, and take action for a more just society. From thought-provoking discussions to powerful stories, SAFM is leading the conversations that move us. Because your voice matters, your rights matter, and together we shape a better future. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Call us on 086 000 2032.
Okay, let's get to your calls. There's lots of WhatsApps. There's lots of text messages. In fact, here's one. Good evening, Uncle Ashraf. Just Ashraf, man. Love the show. Why was Mr. Rasool sent home, but the DA was allowed to speak to the American delegates from Omarian and Mpumalanga? Sounds like I have an inside track into the minds of the people of the White House. Maybe we should ask them, isn't it? You know that. Mbuyisa, let's get your thoughts. Hello.
Yes, how are you?
I'm good indeed, yeah. What's your point?
I'm fine. My point is simple. I'm very grateful for what Comrade Rasool has done. He did not stay there in shame or being scared of saying what he believes in. When things are not okay out there, everyone is welcome home. Home is home. He will be welcome. He's our hero. He's our comrade. He stood there for a good cause. But all I want to say is that yesterday I watched another interview for AfriForum. You know, Ashraf, even if AfriForum can talk too much, deep in their heart, their conscience is eating them slowly. And I can tell you, one day, like this AVBA, it will fade away like AVBA one day. But we truth to be told, they are not at peace. They are not at peace at all with what they have done for this country.
Well, we don't know that. Maybe they are at peace. I mean, you don't know they're not at peace.
I can tell you they are not. Their conscience is actually eating them. I mean, I can tell you now. But for Comrade Rasool, he must come back home, and then he will be welcome as a hero.
Okay, well, there you are. But that's the point. For some people, absolute, fool, as has been suggested, or foolish, as Douglas Gibson has said. For others, absolute hero. Are there others who are in between those two absolute extremes? Impo in Bloemfontein, go again, comment on Rasool. Yeah,
Ashraf, how are you?
Yeah, very good indeed. Go for it.
I'm good. I don't know why people are acting surprised with what Donald Trump has done. It is very clear that America has been having a mandate from the beginning to bully every country. So what they have done is not new. It's not Donald Trump the problem. The problem is America. So we're acting as if it's a new thing that is happening. It is very clear that these bullying tactics of America will never stop until South Africa takes a stand. But the problem is that there's a thin line between diplomacy and being bullied or being cowardized.
But what's the stand we should take? I mean, that's the point. Let's look at it practically. Yeah.
That Rasool must come back home with pride. It's not something that you shouldn't feel ashamed of coming back home. It is his home. South Africa is his home. Africa is his home. So let America keep their America. We'll keep our Africa. So let it be clear. We don't mind. Okay. It is now time that Africa should stand and not be dependent and reliant on other countries.
Okay.
We have a lot of resources here in Africa. So it is not. We should not be ashamed or be intimidated by their lives.
Okay, your point is made. I mean, shades of Robert Mugabe there. You can keep your America, right? But can we? I mean, Impo, thanks for that. But can we? I'd love us to be more independent. So even when the AGOA issue comes up, it's like, actually, we don't need it. Thank you. But are we genuinely in that position right now to say we don't need you? And I'm being practical about it. Are we genuinely in that position? Labirwa, let's get your thoughts. Hello.
Thank you, Ashraf.
Yeah, good talking to you.
Speaking for us, all of you, Labirwa here. Look, yes, to answer your question, to say we're in a position. Yes, we are in a position. We are the second traders with America. That is the first thing. And then secondly, that I'd like to mention about the racism that American has towards the African in general. They did not have a problem with white Afrikaners going to America and settle there. They don't have that problem. But now they have a problem with the comment that was made. by someone of Rasul. I don't know if it's an Indian origin or what, but because of his standing with the Palestinians that he advocated for many years ago. But that is the position of America. America in general, they don't like black people. And that's what we should appreciate, and that's what we should learn if we haven't learned it in the past. They've never supported us during the apartheid years. So what do we expect now? They are fighting with everyone with their own whites that I like so much. So what is that from us that we expect? I hear a lot of white African people here in South Africa and some minority groups who are, how can I put it, who are indicating that Rasul made wrong comments or what. It doesn't matter what he made or what he said. The bottom line is that America and most Americans in general, they are racist.
Okay, got that. Let's move on. Well, here's the point, Klabiru, I'm going to move on. You see, here's the point, and I'll repeat what I said earlier. The one part is you can't challenge Rasul for saying, was he right as a diplomat? Was he being diplomatic as a diplomat in terms of his role as a diplomat in that country? Meaning, if he doesn't like that country, why is he there in the first place? I think he was sent there. So once he's there, can he do what he did? That's the first part. And there's consequences in that, right? And this doesn't mean Americans are angels. Not at all. I think all the points brought up earlier, there are so many contradictions in American society, foreign policy. It's shocking. It really is shocking, right? On the other hand, is Rasul right about what he actually said? If you follow through, I would suggest you spend some time listening to what he said, because it wasn't an outburst. It was something very clear about what he said on a range of issues, including the march of the right wing in the world, okay, and the collaborations that they are engaging in, right, and the attempts to discredit incumbent leadership in many parts of the world. Just consider that. I think it's worth looking at, okay? Right, there's another comment on the issue of iPads. Salo, go for it.
Thank you, Ashraf. Ashraf, you know what? Since when we love, all the radio guys love to quote things that they've been writing on Twitter. I'm surprised I've never heard any presenter on SAFM. I've never heard. There's two influencers on Twitter, Ashraf, that claimed or that said that they were people who wanted to pay them 50 grand. I thought one of you guys will pick up that story. No one did it. And then now we have this allegation level to Kwanash. So I think it would be fair and very interesting if you and Temba and the other guys on our show to follow through to those guys, because you know about them. I know Temba.
Well, maybe we don't know. I mean, a lot of things.
It is there. As well as it's there, they can look for it, and then they can find out. If you don't know.
I'll tell Temba and I'll tell Keys. Let's look for it.
That's my point, Ashraf. And lastly, yes, South Africa doesn't need this AGOA things. I once told one journalist, now we went back to journalism again, he was the radio presenter, to say this AGOA thing, Ashraf, it is just a bullying tactic that they use. They are sending us the meat that we really don't, it is not even fresh or even healthy for us to eat. But because they are giving us money, we have to eat that rubbish meat that we're getting from that side. So, yes, Ashraf, to answer your question, we don't need AGOA. I hope that if a South African government can run this country efficiently, so we don't need AGOA.
All right, good. Thanks for that. Now, I wonder if others agree with you. By the way, on the issue of the influencers, I mean, here's the point, okay? If they've made allegations, then why don't they just go and report it? I mean, and I haven't seen the story, but if they've made the allegations, let them go and report it. That's the basis of any conversation or investigation, don't you think, on this issue here, right? Okay, there's more. Lebo in Bloemfontein. Hello, Lebo.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, just a quick one. I think it's really going to sound like one is repeating themselves, because this issue has been hammered on throughout the day, but it will never be enough really to not ventilate about it. Ashraf, the solidarity and all these people went to America and they made all statements about South Africa. Mm-hmm. That was acceptable to the Americans, or at least to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
In South Africa, we believe in robust and open dialogue and frank talk. You know,
Yeah.
that's actually our character. And Americans, or they want to believe that they are the leaders of democracy in the world, but they cannot even tolerate, they cannot engage someone who's making statements. They cannot take them along. Their very own ambassador, not so long ago, obviously made allegations about South Africa giving armaments to Russia. But we engaged. You know, we engaged. He could not be able to prove what he said.
Yeah.
Should we have made him to pack and go home, he could have been more justified as if that was true. So I think really Ambassador Rasool should come home. We love him. We embrace him. It's okay. He will continue to make statements, and that is not really going to change where the sun rises and sets. So thank you very much, Ashraf.
Okay.
I hope, this will be laid to rest at some point.
Laid to rest is an interesting phrase to use. Thanks for that, Lebo. Right, we'll get to WhatsApps in a moment, but Luvo in Klebecha, go ahead again on Rasool.
Yes, on Rasool. Firstly, Ashraf, I want to start by saying this. Ashraf, I'm so worried, I'm so concerned about us as South Africans, especially the elders. We keep on smashing or crushing the future of our youth. What about our kids, the way we are behaving? You know, number one, we always putting race up front. We're saying Trump is racist. Meaning, we as black South Africans, I'll say as black South Africans, we must look at ourselves and do introspection. If a white person is coming up with something, racism. And all of those people who are saying we don't need AGOA, they must think about the future of our children. We need America, whatever what we can say. Lastly, Ashraf, quickly.
Yeah.
As South Africans, let's not fool ourselves. We don't have a government currently. We don't have a government. The country is on autopilot. Let's think about that.
Okay, got that. Well, I tell you what, I mean, I hear you, Luvo. Thanks for that, right? You know, I'd like us, listen, you know, forget the Rasool story. That's just his comments, right? There are bigger issues, and I've said so before. They've already said our country is doing bad things, and a lot of it is unjustified. What should we do about that? I mean, that's the biggest issues. They've already threatened us with AGOA. They've threatened us, and they've actually had the nerve to say we're doing so because of South Africa's position on regarding the ICJ in Israel. I mean, which country does that? I mean, this is what the USA does. So on the one hand, I would agree to say we don't want to do any business with them. But let's be practical. We can't let that go at the moment. That's my understanding. We can't let it go with any of these countries. We are nowhere in a position economically to do that. But also, how do we just also let countries bully us? Does that mean, for example, and I don't just mean the USA, does that mean that any country that we're doing business with can bully us because they're bigger than us, so like it's one of those things, and effectively then they own our country? Can we do that? Hilton in Sandton, go for it.
Hi, Ashraf. Yeah, look, I mean, I do think, there's a lot of loyalty to Rasool, there's a lot of loyalty to our country, but the fact of the matter is, if you're an ambassador, then be a diplomat and approach the thing diplomatically. Don't say stupid things, and don't put your own ideology in place of something that is. Pragmatics have to, excuse the pun, but pragmatics have to trump everything. The AGOA Treaty is crucial for this country. It's huge money. Let's not be myopic. Of course, you can adopt some kind of myopic principle, but it doesn't work. You've actually got to look at the bigger picture here and stop looking at it in sort of micro fashion.
Okay,
America is crucial.
Points made. America is crucial, but they also shouldn't bully South Africa. Point made about that, Hilton. And I'm talking about the general issues, not even Ebrahim Rasool. And I mentioned that again. Right, let's get to some of the WhatsApp voice notes. Keep them to 30 seconds, please. If they're beyond that, we really can't play them. I'm just telling you because there's just no time then.
Ashraf, good afternoon, man. Flores here from the beautiful Western Cape. Ashraf, let me tell you, Rasool is there not to represent a party or his personal opinions. He is there to represent South Africa in the best way he can. So, yeah, I think he let it slip there. But I think that will teach us a lesson, and our president needs to stand up and set his foot down and tell Donald Trump what's up. We cannot go on like this. Have a good show. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you. The show's almost over.
Ashraf, this is Grant. Everyone's talking. I'm listening to one story after the next.
about getting kids going as early as possible. That is the correct way to do it. Unfortunately, the breeding is just way too much. So you're never going to be able to do that if you have 8 kids. If you have 2 kids, you'll easily be able to do that. That's your problem. The biggest problem is overbreeding. People are breeding themselves into poverty.
Okay, I wonder if others agree with that. The show's almost over. We may get a reaction on that. If not now, then tomorrow.
Hi, Ashraf. On the Rasool matter, I really want South Africans to wake up. If you recall, there hasn't been long since the Bell Pottinger whole thing came out. Have you learned from that? Outside people are pushing our buttons left, right, and center, and we're just falling for it like they are dividing us so easily now. This is the time that we need to stand together, not let this separate each other. Yeah, people are proving to be reactionary, South Africans, fine, but we need to be standing together now. Don't let them divide us further. Come on.
Okay, I think that Bell Pottinger reminder is a good reminder. Do we not think that other people are meddling in our country?
Good evening, Ashraf. I just want to remind you and your listeners that in the previous election, 1 in 2 Latinas voted for Donald Trump. 1 in 3 Black Americans voted for Donald Trump. And one of the first things that he did in his first term as president was to release Black prisoners who had been incorrectly incarcerated under previous presidents. So either he is a racist who is loved by the people that he oppresses, or the narrative that you guys are pushing about him being a racist is incorrect. I choose the latter. Manyanani Qabeh.
Okay, I'm not sure who the you guys are that you're referring to, but I hear you.
Hi, Ashraf. You know, listening to your guest speaking about who's supposed to be speaking and when, who's supposed to exactly express the view of the government, it shows exactly that we don't have leadership in this country, because anyone can speak whenever they feel like they can speak, and on top of that we just have a president. Just because he's a president, he's not showing any leadership there. Yeah, it's sad.
Okay, wow, really?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. When it comes to Rasool and USA, I congratulate Rasool. He did the right thing. He represented our country very, very well. The only thing that President Cyril Ramaphosa must do now is to give Rasool a task of removing South Africa from AGOA, so that these guys who are going up there like AfriFrom and stuff, I'm sure they've got farms. They export fruits and stuff. They will feel the pain. Hadebe, Cape Town. Thanks, Ashraf.
Okay, and maybe 1 or 2 more.
Hi there, Ashraf. You know, everyone can see that the ANC has ruined this country. Absolutely. We're like a third world banana republic just about, where we have democracy, but we side with countries that don't have democracy and are jihadists and so on. So, yeah, we can expect that Trump will look at us and say, this is a third world country. What right have they got to say and criticize America? So that's my opinion. This is Mike from Hillcrest in KZN.
Thanks, Mike. There's lots. By the way, there's lots of countries, including the USA, you could question who are their chommies. Seriously.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. It's Soti here. I think we are somehow finding ourselves, talking about this, the role of an ambassador. The US, where they have ambassadors, they have commented and accused government and spoken bad of presidents. And no one has seen wrong to that because it's America. So it's not new.
Well, that's true. Here's the last one I'll play.
Good day, Ashraf. In this manner, I feel like South Africa, we are forcing ourselves to communicate. We are begging on the Americans to understand on our side. Why do we need to go that far to go and explain our side? Every time it's us to explain our side. For them, they have no reason to explain to us. Why are they doing that? Don't you think it's not fair? Our government must just leave it, stay away from it.
Okay. Well, that's the National Pulse. We'll do it again tomorrow. Thanks for listening. Thanks for engaging and participating and all that sort of thing. Listen to the podcast. We've tweeted many of them, but you can also go to the website, safm.goza, the National Pulse. You'll find all the podcasts of the conversations we've had today and every other day, right? We'll do it again tomorrow. It's Greg Host now, taking over the news at 6.
Thank you again, Ashraf. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Billions for water infrastructure in KZN and the SA and EU share common vision